All right, ladies and gents, welcome back to the John X Mike podcast. It is John X Fire here with Michael Phoenix back again. It's been not as long since the last time, Mikey. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Jonathan. I'm glad to see your introductions have been as long as mine usually are, which is very, very nice to see, Jonathan. Makes me feel like I'm not the only idiot in this duo. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Had a little bit of a break, of course, after the play-ins for Riyadh. We've got some time. It resumes tomorrow, so there's been time to just kind of relax. Not much really going on. We just saw the groups drawn up, and I think that's been a little bit surprising for me. You and I were having a discussion on the end of play-ins, how the groups might go. You know, if there's waiting for the top three, it doesn't look like there was, because you have Blacklist on Group A. You have Aurora on Group A, and that's with Team Spirit. That's with Falcons. That feels like the group of death. And we have two Southeast Asian teams there, Mike. Yeah. I don't think I'm too happy about that, I'll be frank.
I always say, John, it's never easy being an SCA Dota fan. It really isn't easy being an SCA fan, Jonathan. Even the Dota gods just are looking down upon us at this point. Just, like you said, we get put into the harder group, and of all things as well, both teams from SCA are in the harder group. For anyone that hasn't seen the groups, I suppose I'll bring it up right now, Jonathan, so we can kind of go over them quickly so people are aware of just how one-sided these groups may be. Group A is the one we're particularly talking about. Aurora, Blacklist are the SCA teams. And then you have Gaming Gladiators, Heroic, LGD Gaming, OG, Team Falcons, and Team Spirit. The last two teams are probably the favorites to win the whole thing anyway. Right? I mean, Team Falcons definitely looking to be the favorites. Of course, Team Spirit as well tend to get really good when there's money on the line, Jonathan. So yeah. I'm sure that they're going to get extremely good all of a sudden. The other group, I mean, I'll read the other group out, John, just for people that haven't seen the other group. Group B, Beast Coast, BetBoom, Entity, Mouse, PSG Quest, Team Liquid, Tundra, and WBG, which is Extreme Gaming. Look, Group B, so I feel like Team Liquid should have the easiest time of their lives. You know, just grinding through Group B, maybe Tundra, maybe Beast Coast. I don't know, Jonathan, but Group B is a lot easier than Group A, I want to say. And Jesus, it's just not easy being an SCA fan.
No. Certainly not. I do feel like Group B is a little bit more even in that sense. Like, it should be a little bit more competitive. I'm not sure how to weigh Liquid. I think Liquid has been a little bit more up and down in some of their performances. But I would say Entity is pretty scary. Extreme Gaming, Tundra, those are the three that I think, and Quest, those are like the four that I think are going to be really strong. Group A, it's scary for me because I think Blacklist in their last play-in when they played up against Entity, you know, they were, I don't know if they were having fun. I hope they were, because if that was their idea of a legitimate draft, it felt like we're gonna have issues going into these groups. You know, for that one team, for Aurora, it's also been middling. Although in groups they do a little bit better. At least very recently, their groups have been a little bit better. But in this group, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if I see both of them dropping down to the bottom. I don't think so. I think LGD got very lucky in their tiebreaker into the decider match, eliminating G2IG and eliminating Nouns, which honestly was a little bit surprising. LGD managed to eliminate Nouns, but Nouns has, again, been also a little bit on that up and down. But it's hard to be confident about Aurora and Blacklist being in the safe zone. You know, it's like, I don't know.
I agree with you, John. I think it is what it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure the groups were randomly selected, right? Like they were drawn per se. So it is like, we can't complain, right? If it's pure RNG, you know, it's you just gotta accept it. You know, sometimes the dice don't land where you want them to land, Jonathan. You know, sometimes you get snake eyes and you just gotta live with it. It's hopefully the SCA teams, being Aurora and Blacklist, you know, pull their pants up, put their big boy shoes on, Jonathan, and hopefully they give us a bit of a run. I mean, can we talk about them as well for a moment? Like Blacklist International, you and I were talking so much crap last podcast, like just a week ago. Just before Riyadh started, you and I were literally we must have gone on for like an hour straight.
Yeah.
About how garbage Blacklist International have looked. I say Blacklist rivalry is, you know, because, you know, in fairness, we are calling them international because we're in Riyadh, right? So I'm going to just say Blacklist rivalry because we're not This is our podcast, Jonathan. We're not, we're not sponsored by any particular countries that don't like betting, so it's fine, right? Blacklist rivalry. We were just talking a week ago about how garbage this team was, and all of a sudden, Riyadh comes around. The play-in stage, they're looking fantastic. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, Jonathan. They were undefeated for the first 2 days. Yep. Couldn't believe my eyes. They were playing real Dota. But then Heroic comes around and says, well, hold on a minute, guys. Reality check, right? This is a stronger team, and they end up losing 2-0 quite convincingly. John, I want to see them do well in the group stage, I really want Blacklist to do well. I already know Aurora is probably going to do okay, as they always do during the group stages. I just really hope both teams make it out of this group. It's going to be very hard. But even if we have a one upper bracket, one lower bracket team situation, just so be it. Just let both teams progress through. There's got to be space for these two teams. There's got to be. You've got LGD, and no offense to these teams, you've got LGD, you've got OG. Those seem like easy pickings to me at the moment. These guys, there's no way you end up coming behind those guys. Surely.
I mean, surely. I mean, we'll have to see. I think you are right in that point. Again, I don't know how fair it is to judge LGD. It felt like they were going to be eliminated. They managed to win that tiebreaker versus G2IG and then win up against Nouns as well. So not exactly the easiest opponents. Arguably on G2IG, maybe a little bit easier considering their form. But Nouns certainly should have been a little bit more of a challenging team. I am concerned for Blacklist in that matchup against Heroic. It didn't up against Entity. It didn't look like the best there for Blacklist, right? Like, that was pretty convincing from Entity, but who knows how seriously Blacklist were taking it. For sure, again, like we were talking about last time we met up, I do feel like the message did go across. Losing 0-4 in the TI qualifiers has to motivate you, and it certainly has motivated the side of Blacklist. I think it also helped that Blacklist changed their draft. They're not running very boring off lanes for Gabby. Like, they're giving him Beastmaster. They're going for this one solid combination with Beastmaster Hoodwink. I'm just concerned if that combination disappears, along with the Wind Ranger that I believe Armel was talking about with me, that he says Gabby believes it's really strong, and all of them believe the Wind Ranger offlane safe mid is really strong because how hard it is to shove from lane. If they lose these options, I'm hoping Blacklist still has something to cook up. It does feel like, in the games we've watched as well, right, with Blacklist in particular, it does feel like the show is run by Gabed, right? Gabby and Abed are running the show. Natsumi's like a side character right now. His carry doesn't even need to win the lane.
I've got a comment on this, and let me apologize as well, because I said that Blacklist lost to Heroic, but indeed it was actually Entity. So props to you for remembering that, Jonathan. Let me talk about the Natsumi carry for a second, right? Because the way Blacklist have been playing, I've got to tell you, I don't know if Natsumi's been asked to take a back seat. I don't know if he's been asked to give the farming space to Abed and Gabby, but I really, really, really have not felt any impact from Natsumi. And I like the guy. I like the young man. There's a lot of potential, but my God, is there zero impact? Right? There is just there's nothing happening from the position one role. I want to be nice about it, John. You know that I'm telling the truth. There is zero impact going on.
Yeah,
nothing's happened. Right? Like, the weight on Garbed's shoulders right now, Gabby and Abed, I literally accidentally just said Garbed, John, right? Because that's what it is. They're carrying the team right now. Gabby and Abed, the weight on their shoulders to try and make this team work. At the moment, they're basically playing without a position one. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. They're playing 4v5 right now. I don't know whose fault that is. Again, I don't know if the coach said, listen, Natsumi, we're going to trust Abed and Gabby to take care of it. Just take a backseat. Just relax, hit some creeps in the jungle. Don't worry about it. Don't take any space off them. But I don't feel the impact. I don't feel the impact. And then, this is the thing as well. I'm going to say it. Back in the day, when that Boom Esports iteration was around, right? That the one that everyone loved, that it was actually making waves with, Yopaj, Jackie, all that. There was a lot of talks about switching carries. And a lot of, I remember having this conversation, and they said, we're thinking about switching Jackie with Natsumi. And I said, you guys must be out of your goddamn mind. Like, they're just not at the same level. They're just not. And right now, I feel like you're kind of saying, I want the best for the man, Jonathan, but I got to tell you, but this is a big tournament. I got to see a little bit more. when we're casting their games, I'm waiting to call out his name, Jonathan. I'm waiting for the big moment. It just never comes. It never
No.
comes.
No, but I do feel like it's also down to how the teams utilize him, right? Like, it felt like on his stint in Boom, he was trying to be more tempo when the best we've seen Natsumi was when he was on Polaris, when he was the focus point, when they were trying to give him a secure lane, give him the space. None of the teams that have picked up Natsumi since hasn't really done that. You know, like, again, we see his lane get sacked. We see literally everyone rotating mid or top, connecting to Gabby or Abed. The bot lane is just ignored. So I can't even say it's his fault. Like, he's playing at minimal farm. We see Gabby eat all the farm. Pretty much it. Like, almost every game Blacklist wins is Gabby #1 net worth, followed by Abed after the enemy pause 1. And Natsumi almost like bottom net worth core, if not middle of the pack. It just feels like that's the prioritization from Blacklist. That's the way they're directing it. And I don't know, it's rough for good old Natsumi. I mean, he's 14k for a reason. You know,
Sure.
he's 14k for a reason. I just feel like the way Blacklist plays is that and I think this kind of goes back to old Blacklist iterations. They went through a lot of carries. I think all they're looking for in Blacklist is a carry that literally you can completely sacrifice just so Abed and Gabi can have a game. Feels like that's been their game plan for at least the past year. Like, think about Palos. Almost the same story. He was almost impact less in his safe lane, outside maybe like when he picks up CK. And sometimes a tiny, but it feels like that's just the way this team thinks. And I know if it feels very on purpose to me. So it's like I can't even point to Natsumi as the fault, because they are all in on Gabed. That's the team strat.
Look, I'm not denying what you're saying. I could see a world where that certainly is the case. But my question then is, if you're the guy building the roster, why not get a position 1 that plays more actively? Because I'm just not seeing that either. Like, when I say impact, John, I don't just mean the net worth is low. I mean there's no impact. Like, there's nothing's going on.
I mean, to be fair, Natsumi was making plays. Like, he was playing a little bit more active. He'd connect onto that mid lane. I remember that one time when he built... I forget what it was. He hit an Orca timing and a hero, and he did try to play off of that. It fell flat.
I think it was CK.
Was it the CK?
I remember the moment you're talking about.
Yeah, he went mid and then died, but...
Yeah.
I know, it's like, if you think about pause ones who are active, you don't really have many outside of maybe Akashi and Abat, I think, are the most active pause ones in Southeast Asia right now. Even Jackie just sits back and farm. His thing is to win the lane and then win farm. So I don't think you have a lot of active pause ones around that same way, unfortunately.
I mean, you could be right, Jonathan. I don't know. I mean, you and I, we don't know the ins and outs of what the strategies are here for Blacklist International. All I'm saying is the games that we're casting, I'm just not seeing any impact from the position 1, and I think the role's too important to just sack every single game. Like, it's just... Show me one game where he's not getting sacked, just so I believe that's happening. You know, it's just... Every game, it's like, at the end of the game, he's got 10k net worth. Like, well... You know,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's more than likely a conscious choice. I do disagree that pause one's the most important. I think offlane's been important for since this patch, like since this full blank patch, maybe even before that for a little bit longer. I think the offlane just sets way too much tempo. There's a little bit more forward emphasis in early to mid game, like taking these early objectives, and that's more in your mid and offlane and supports. So I do think active carries are really good, and I think Akashi again is the highlight of that, but I think it's really just the way Blacklist understands this patch. And yeah, Natsumi takes a backseat. Probably his best hero. I would like to see one thing from Natsumi. Like, more Weaver. I mean, I know it's a top tier ban out, but if you can get away with Weaver, it feels like that gives you that early activity. If not Weaver, then at least Troll for push or the CK. Like, those are like 3 heroes I think can kind of fit that sack the safe lane and try to be active earlier for Blacklist.
Right. Look, it is what it is. We're going into the group stage. They've made it. I'm happy they've made it, Jonathan. You know, as much as I'm already critiquing the little ins and outs of Blacklist and stuff, I like that they've made it. It's fine. I'm happy for now. All I'm saying is I don't know how they're going to get out of these groups if they continue down a similar path. Like, we went good in the playing stage, great. But Time to get to the next level. Because now you're in a group there's no mercy in this group, eh? There's none. Like, you've got LGD who might get eliminated, and then after that, it's just a question mark. It really is just a question mark after that. And I guarantee you, every other team in Group A right now is looking at those SEA teams being like, one of those is getting eliminated. Like, there's no way the European teams aren't looking at this list of Group A and thinking to themselves, we got it easy. Like, there's no SEA teams coming through. You know, we're just knocking those guys out. We're just making it a whole EU kind of group. I think that's what they're saying, Jonathan. I think that's who they're looking at right now. I don't think there's any excuses to be had from SEA, quite frankly, because we're in a stage in Dota 2 where at this stage SEA just needs to be good enough to compete, and I believe they are good enough to compete. Hopefully they prove me right here, Jonathan, Group A, because as usual, you and I will be out there celebrating and, you know, rooting them on and whatever else, but my goodness, it gets a little bit scary at this stage.
That it does. Again, those teams studied. At least, you know, Gabby's going to have to play something else than Beastmaster, Wind Ranger, maybe to Doom, so we'll see. I think it's rather interesting, again, like, if this was fully randomized, it's unfortunate for C, because even South America got split into 2 groups. So, it's just rough. It's just rough, yeah. I know. And it's going to be really disappointing for literally the few fans that will go to the arena, because they are moving to the Cube Arena, I believe, right? If I remember our scheduling right. That's going into the Cube Arena for playoffs. And I've already had a few messages from people asking if we were going to be there. So I'm sure all of those same fans would appreciate if Blacklist, at the very least, was there. I think Blacklist more so than Aurora. But we'll have to see. They have that weight on their shoulders.
They certainly do, Jonathan. Can we kind of move on here? Like, I know Riyadh's currently happening, right? So I guess there is probably things we could come back to later on during this podcast. But I did want to segue a little bit, because we are talking about SEA players and SEA teams. There's an SEA player out there that specifically said something in particular that was very interesting, Jonathan. Castaway had an article with Otomo. Shout out to both those boys. Otomo, of course, you know, he's somewhat of a journalist, Jonathan, also casting these days. And Castaway is, you know, a player trying to make it to the tier 1 scene. Castaway said, Jonathan, in this article, or rather this interview with Otomo, Castaway said that SEA players are asking too much money for salary. Apparently, a lot of players that have been attempted to be, I suppose, hired by Neon back when Neon was still around. Apparently, a lot of players from SEA asking for around 10k USD a month. And the argument is, we've been to LANs, we've been to majors, whatever. We were tier 1 DPC or div 1 DPC. We deserve 10k USD a month. Now, 10k USD a month not any, but most SEA countries is a lot of money. Right, I guess you could say like Singapore, it's not that much, whatever, right?
It's pretty high for Singapore. I will correct you there. That is still high for Singapore.
Okay, but what I'm saying is 10k a month for SEA is pretty high. USD, it's a lot of money, right? You'd have
it's
to
a lot
argue
of money anywhere. That's 100k a year, 120k a year in American terms.
It's not high in Australia. I promise you that.
I mean, again, by statistics, 120k is more than double the median salary in America. And that would be, I believe that's like a senior coder position, so fairly high up the ladder, corporate ladder in, say, IT. So it is considerably high. Maybe not in Australia, but Australia's a different story. I'm guessing you have to be a millionaire just to survive in the streets of Australia nowadays. Your hobos are probably worth more than the Southeast Asians in middle class for just how much you need to survive in Australia. That's just the outback,
You know
I
what,
guess.
John? I actually think what you just said is not inaccurate. As sad as that sounds, I actually believe you're right in what you just said. Moving on to the topic though, Castaway did mention 10k USD per player, just to be specific, of course. 10k per player is what Castaway was complaining about. He's saying, well, how are these SEA orgs meant to hire players if they want 10k USD per month? Which, I'll be frank, John, I kind of agree with him, right? I've wanted to own teams before, right? Now, mind you, I don't have the money to own a team, John. I know how expensive it is now. But before I knew how expensive it was, when we first started casting, we first started getting lands, I started asking some questions. I'm like, I wonder how much owning a team in SCA really does cost. You know, shout out to people like Gary, who gave us a bit of an insight. You know, there's other SCA. You know, we had Powell from Fnatic, who would kind of give us a bit of an insight. We had an idea of how much these players get. And as soon as I heard those numbers, that dream of owning a team out the window. It's like, no, there's no way. There's no way I can afford to pay $50K a month USD for 5 players, and then on top of that, I've got to pay for a coach who's probably going to ask a similar amount. And that's before I pay any of the staff in my organization.
Yep.
That's before I pay myself. That's before I pay the bills. Yeah, like the rent, the food costs, the travel costs, whatever the hell else you want to put in there, Jonathan. It's a lot of money to own a team right now. And in SCA of all things, for it to cost 10K per month per player seems kind of ridiculous. If I'm frank with you, Jonathan, now, if I may finish off my point just quickly before you get started. My idea was you accepted a salary that gave you the ability to live, and then you played your heart out for prize pools, right? That's what I thought it was always like. They give you a base salary, it'll allow you to survive, but then you've got to win. You've got to win, right? If you want your money for the year, you got to win. That's sport for you. But apparently, we're living in an age now where you have to pay these SCA players 10K a month, and that's SCA, John. Could you imagine how high it's gotten in other regions? What are you thinking?
Number one, that's not a very general statement to Southeast Asian players. I'm pretty sure we all know the players that they're talking about, and I'm not afraid to say it. It's blacklist. It's blacklist anyone remotely associated to those blacklist players as well. That's looking at players like DJ. You know, and again, this is just because it's a very specific thing. It's unfair to say it's all of Southeast Asian players. It's all of these players who've been there and do still think that they're in the glory days of 2016. And this is a reality call. This is a wake-up call for all of them, especially those on Blacklist, because who knows if Blacklist sticks around, considering the results here in Riyadh, considering that they're not in TI. Riyadh is their make or break to keep that salary alive. Look at Cuckoo. No team, TNC picks him up with no salary. Right? So it's very clear who these statesmen were about. And it does make it hard for people to go off the veterans to build around a team. And that's why it's very hard. I mean, in a way, it's not. If you go with like fresher players, it's still relatively accessible. Neon, again, for their part, I'm pretty sure, you know, Castaway and company aren't getting 10K a month. I'm pretty sure Talon didn't offer that amount to WS, Akashi, Ponyo, even Chuen when he came in. They probably offered more than, you know, more than average for sure, considering Talon's stand, but definitely not as much as Old Talon. Not even, I don't think even remotely close to Old Town there. And that is something that all of these pros will have to wake up to, again, because the salaries are way too high. I mean, again, Raven didn't join the team. I don't know if that's, like, to be fair to Raven, I do feel like he wanted to go on break. We haven't seen Carl. I don't know if he's on a sabbatical as well, or if it's something about just salary requirements that he wants. DJ, he did leave Bleed very last minute, so no one could integrate him on. You know, stuff like that. But it's this older set of players that I think have been spoiled. Because to be fair, in their heyday in like 2016 into maybe 2020, 2022 for Aurora / Old Town, a lot of investment was still coming into esports. But so a lot of that was just dragged up. Salaries went sky high. Guess what? Game development's down, IT's down. Everything outside of hardware in like IT is not doing well. And that's reality. Again, this is very specific to those old-time players. They're just too expensive. I know for a fact that other orgs were looking at bringing some of these old players in, but the salaries they were asking for were way too high. Like, they were willing to pay pretty good. You know, again, like, we're talking about players asking for 10K. They're being offered, like, maybe 5. You know, maybe 5, maybe even 7 at max. That's still an insane amount of money, even by American standards. Maybe not Australian, because the hobos there are richer than the kings of Southeast Asia, but 70K to 100K a year is still insane, right? Like, that's still not a laughable amount. That is still higher than the median income, again, in America. That's a coder at a middle position in America, in a big IT firm. So... yeah, it's kind of wild.
That's what I'm complaining about. Like, what are we doing here? Because it's like, the prize pools are already ridiculously high in Dota. Are they not? Like, comparative to other esports, I think Dota still has one of the highest, if not. Right. So we're playing for prize pool, are we not? If we're not playing to win, what are we playing for? right? Like, I got a little bit upset when I started hearing these numbers the first time, because it started to become quite obvious to me that a lot of the players that we try to rely on to win some games for SCA, it becomes quite obvious that they're just securing a bag. You know, they're just are we just securing a bag, or are we trying to win some Dota 2, right? Because I'll tell you what, John, if I was a player and I was being, offered a team invite, I'd say, don't worry about the high salary. Give me the players I want. Give me the good players. Give them the money. I'll win you the game. I'll win the damn tournaments, right? That's what you want to do. Now, I know that's easier said than done, Jonathan. I get it, right? SCA hasn't won a TI yet. I understand. We don't win many tournaments. But I don't think paying players this high of a salary is a great thing, because it doesn't feel like anyone's incentivized to win. No. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think what's my point about that? It's also like I just don't understand why they ask for such high salaries when org cut in prize pools is very low. I know the ratios. It's not a lot. Even if they win one major. Number? I think it's like most orgs go for a 20, maybe 15% cut. Some of these players haggle down to 10. So even if you win, the expenses for the year aren't covered from the prize pool for the org. There's no profit. And think about, like, this is why I've always felt, for at least in the past 6 years, it felt like Widow's salary is already rising at that point. I'm not sure how orgs ever made money. I really, really don't. I think Talon might be the one that kind of sustains it. A lot of these orgs are so dependent on their sponsors. Like, they're dependent on stuff like GGBet, 1xBet, Rivalry. There used to be PNXBet. And yeah. I don't think that's because of bad financial. I mean, in a way, it's bad financials because all of these players ask for so goddamn much. Like, there's no room for an org to grow it. Again, in Liquid is one good example that I think does good, but they're also like top in terms of like name retention, brand recognition, right? EG used to be up there until they blew themselves up. I think in Southeast Asia it might legitimately just be Talon, maybe T1, but I don't know how T1 does in like other esports. I know Bleed is a loss-leading kind of company that they're just throwing money into it. Even before all of these issues with lawyers, Bleed's thing was just like a passion project, so it wasn't supposed to gain them money in like very early terms. So right. It feels like that's a lot of orgs, and a lot of those orgs are just running out of money. And I don't know, it doesn't help to try to be profitable when your players are asking for the equivalent of 5 high position IT workers in America with your prize pool cut so low, and considering you don't even win. So even that prize pool cut does nothing. It's like it just doesn't do anything.
That's what I'm saying. That's my complaint, right? Like, let me make it clear. I'm not complaining that players get paid a lot of money. It's good. Let them get paid a lot of money. But you've got to win. Like, you can't be top 16 every tournament and then get 10k a month. You can't do that. You know how mad, John, if I was the owner of these teams, paying 10k a month, and this is the results they were giving me every time, you know how mad I would be? I would be furious. I'm not selling any merch. I'm not getting any prize pool cut. Nobody cares about my team because we're trash. And on top of that, I'm playing 10k a month. Are you, for each player? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Oh, there's no way.
Oh yeah.
There's no way.
I mean,
and the worst part is most of these players don't want to stream either. Oh, they don't want to stream and put the logo on. They don't want to put their team logo on. Look, I'm not pointing fingers, Jonathan. I'm simply saying I know a lot of players out there that demand a crazy high salary and they won't even do the bare minimum for the team paying them that money. Yeah. I don't understand where we're going with this anymore. But I'm not saying you need a business degree, but my God, we can do simple basic math, can't we?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's also been a little bit of an issue, even outside of streaming, like preset content when you want your players to be featured and stuff like that. Even that is something that a lot of players just dislike, which I get. You know, you just want to play Dota. At the same time, you know, it doesn't help the scene if the players don't sell themselves as well, and that's just not something. Like, look at Blacklist. Where's their player content? Do they have player content for their salaries? I don't even know. They stream. Some of them stream. Gabby streams, sure. He streams
But
himself being, doing stuff that I wouldn't necessarily want my player to stream, with what they like to enjoy on kick.com or whatever. But it's like, I don't know, like, at the least do something. It's like, get some audience retention in, because let's be frank, Dota numbers in terms of viewership, esports in general has been on a little bit of a downtrend in terms of that, and it doesn't help when your players don't want to get themselves out there. Again, that's why I think one thing you love to mention is like Saberlight. Saberlight's all about hyping himself up. He's selling himself as a name, not just as a player, but as a personality as well. That's like the smart thing to do. A lot of our players just don't do that. I mean, they're doing it now with streaming just a bit more, but like, I don't know, like, you have an org like Blacklist. I'm sure they have so many content creators. They used to have a lot. They could have done so much more with that, and it just feels like no one wants to do anything.
I just can't. It's so sad. It's just so sad. Oh my god. 10k a month to come top 16 every tournament. If that was my team, they would have lasted a week, John. I would have kicked them out of the first. There's no hope. You guys are gone. Get out of here.
That's so funny, because you're literally, in that description, that's Aurora.
Good. Shout out
That's
to
Aurora.
Good for them. Good for them. Fuck them. I mean, are you kidding me? I gotta pay you guys 10k a month and you're not gonna win? Get out of here. Get the hell out of here. You place top 3 if I'm paying you 10k a month. Top 3 minimum. Top 3 minimum. God damn it. Shout out to Aurora, though. They are playing fantastic. I mean, if any SCA team deserves the money, it is Aurora. Right?
No, but you just literally described what Aurora did this year. That's their entire year. They've not placed above top, I think, 12. Maybe top 9 to 12 was their highest placement this entire year.
Oh, well,
you literally just described Aurora, and I know their salaries. I know the multiplication number their salaries took going to Aurora. And, I love Sunby, I love Pete. He's a great lad to talk to in person. I just found it slightly funny when he retweeted what Castaway said, because he's not, his hands aren't the cleanest from that kind of thing, but I understand they were offered it. They didn't demand it, so maybe a little bit of a different scenario there. Still kind of funny. And yes, I mean, we're dishing it on Blacklist. Aurora's kind of guilty.
Oh no,
to an extent of that.
I'm dishing it on all the SCA teams out there, Jonathan. I'm dishing it out because we passed the era, I feel like, where players actually wanted to win. That's what I don't feel it anymore. Maybe with Aurora, like Aurora's stack looks like they want to win. Talon looks like they want to win. I'll give you that. But I feel like past that, I don't really see the motivation for players to win. I just don't see it. I think everyone's... This goes back to the complaint I made a few podcast episodes ago, which was a long time ago, about Boom Esports, right? Because I started seeing particular players, suddenly Gucci bags and iPhones and fucking Louis Vuitton sandals, and I couldn't help but thinking, well, this doesn't look like a Dota player to me. This doesn't look like... When I look at the EU guys, Jonathan, they're all wearing white t-shirts, plain jeans, and no one showing off. No one cares about spending 5k on some fucking on some sandals, And then the SCA players all of a sudden come around, and then they're just rocking everything: gold chains, Louis Vuittons, Gucci, you name it. They've got. Like, what are we doing? Are we here to play, or are we on the catwalk? Well, what are we doing?
I will say that was the influence of one very particular player, and that just spread. That was very bad influences coming out.
If you're talking about Skem,
no, it wasn't Skem. It wasn't Skem's influence.
Skem gets permission because Skem's a good player. That guy is consistently good. I will not hear anything bad about Skem. Go on, John. Don't even name who it was. I don't even want to hear it. Because I'm going to get upset. I'm going to get upset, and I know I'm going to start ranting.
You know who it is, though. You know who it is. I mean, you think about Yopaj and how he was on Neon, suddenly getting that. You think about Jackie suddenly being into, like, hoodies and stuff. Even Alphon having to buy... They dragged Alphon in to buy some of that stuff, too. It's like, come on, guys. The manager doesn't make 10k a month, okay? He barely makes a quarter of that. Please, slow down for the manager. Have mercy on your staff mates, guys. Please.
Anyway. Well, that was my rant about the 10k a month, Jonathan. I hope, I hope players get a little bit more realistic, because I'll tell you, I mean, John's already said it, but the money is drying up. Your sponsors right now that are paying, I'll give you the inside info. The sponsors that pay right now are either betting sponsors, right? Or what else? What other sponsors left? It's like literally betting sponsors and like maybe streaming platforms that nobody cares about, like Kick, or like maybe, I don't know, like the stuff you don't really want to be sponsored by is what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're going to the devil at this point to seek out that money. That's where we kind of are.
Yeah. It's pretty much just betting right now. No one else. You know, BTS was trying. We had Mate Mate. And they got
They
Papa
tried.
John's for Summit, man. For
God
Smash
bless them, they
Summit,
tried.
like they really tried. I love those guys. I miss that. I miss those Mate Mate ads. You know, call outs used to be fun, Mike. Instead of just calling out to a link, you like they'd give you a crate of the stuff. I didn't, you know, it was okay. You chug it on stream. You know, you have a good time. Now it's not even creative. Like, what do you want me to gamble on your ad? No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, it's like sure, but nah.
I feel like I've got to flip the table now as well, because I've given crap to the players, Jonathan. Allow me now to direct the crap towards people like us, right? Because I'm a fair man, Jonathan. I think everyone deserves a bit of a slap in the face once upon a time. What about you mentioned the viewership for these tournaments are dropping a little bit lower. Have you not noticed that there's not really any content going on during these tournaments anymore? Like it feels like things are a bit bland, aren't they? Like, I feel like the way a tournament's run these days is we go to we go to the panel talks about whatever, and then we go to the game, and then the game happens, and we do some cringy interview for 30 seconds, and then we send it back to the panel. That's what happens every time. Now, I remember 5+ years ago, during those big breaks, we used to have Slack's content being run all the time. That was hilarious. All the skits he used to do, you know, all the crazy stuff that used to happen back in esports, I feel like just doesn't happen anymore. And makes me wonder, like, are we securing the bag, Jonathan, as talent? And maybe not you and I, because we don't get many lands, but as talent, you start to ask the question, are we also securing the bag? Because I can't particularly say that there's too much effort being put into making these tournaments as entertaining as possible anymore. Are you gonna argue that point with me?
I mean, I'm not going to argue that the tournaments aren't as entertaining. I think this comes down to how do I say this? Talent can only do as much as the tournament wants them to do for the most part. Even if you throw some ideas out, sometimes it just doesn't fit their goals as the organizer. I don't know if this is directly attributable to talent, because I don't know. I feel like that's a direction that organizers take. You know, PGL is a little bit more professional in how they want to portray themselves, right? It's straight up a sports broadcast. I think ESL has always had room to be funny, and to be fair, what they do in like Dream Leagues are really, really fun. I think that's their product for much more, you know, like almost like the Summit kind of vibes, but not quite, you know, but somewhat kind of going for that more laid back, funny vibe. I think it has felt a little bit lacking. Like, I think, I don't know. I don't know if I can say it's been lacking for like Burm. I don't recall too much, even though it's not that long ago. Yeah, I think it's just a byproduct of what direction the tournament wants to go. Because I do feel like, again, like Dream League had pretty fun panel content. They had a lot of fun segues, stuff like that. But I don't know, if you're talking about Riyadh in particular, I think that's just not what they want for the event. I think that's basically it. Like
I was referring to pretty much every tournament right now. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's
I mean, again, Dream League was pretty funny. I don't know if you watch it at the late hours, but they had some good panel stuff.
All right, I'll give you that. Dream League. Can you name me another one?
I mean, what else has been happening? It's Dream League, Mike. It's just Dream League, Elite League, which I honestly haven't watched, because like they have 2 people on site, so there's literally no content to be done when you only have 2 people working the event at a time. You have ESL, their Birmingham product. That one I just didn't catch because of time zone. And that's literally it, Mike. We've had Elite League, we've had Dream League, ESL. Is there any event I'm forgetting? There was Games of the Future, which didn't really have English on site, if I recall right. RES League, which is full remote. They haven't done their LAN. So, I mean, I get there's no hype for a lot of these online-only stuff. At the same time, how do you do content for it? Like, there's barely time for these other casters to try to get these players in, if they even want to talk. The schedules are very cramped. All of the teams are playing multiple tournaments. I'm just wondering what to do. Like, again, on the LAN stuff, Dream League does something interesting. ESL, to be fair, their timelines are very short now in like Birmingham and on the on-site stuff. Like in KL, it was kind of compressed, so there was literally 1 day to film. I think in other comparisons, there were like 2-3 days to film, like content and stuff. If you're talking about like social media memeing, I mean, I feel like that's been lacking for a while. Like additional content from tertiary.
I don't know. I'm saying like actual proper skits and stuff. Like, and I'm not even saying just pure like. I'm talking about like years ago, John. Like I every TI that goes around, like we have like one skit now. You know, all right. I'll give you PGL likes to be professional. Fair enough. You know that's their own like kind of the way they want to do it. Dream League is funny, but I don't really see as many skits there either. ESL events, I don't really see many. Like I just wanted to see more. I just feel like the events just feel, I don't know, apart from the Dota and some funny moments from the talent. And again, I'm not particularly blaming talent, John. I'm one of them, right? What is it? What's the problem? Like, is Dota 2, are these tournaments as engaging as they used to be? The answer is no. I'll answer you right now. The answer is straight up no. They're not as engaging as they used to be. You know, even during breaks, I used to sit there around the break times when there was nothing happening, just in case they were going to throw a skit on that I hadn't seen yet. You know, and now I don't do. Now, as soon as the break comes on, I close Twitch and I walk off, or I go AFK. Like that's what happens every. I don't know. I just feel like there was an age in Dota 2 where it felt like there was constant content, there was skits everywhere, everyone wanted to watch, and now it feels so corporate. That's what it feels like.
And I think it's
feel
just
a little bit corporate.
And I personally feel like that's very attributable to just this squash schedule. There's literally no time to film these skits, even if you wanted to. And frankly, there's probably no budgets for skits to drag away crew members setting up for, you know, doing their dry runs at the same time, for stage cameras, for the roaming cams on the players on lands. It feels like it's probably a budget or time issue, or if not both, I think. I do agree, though. There was some pretty fun stuff thrown in breaks before. But I think at the same time, this is maybe where Dota as an esports just highly spoiled. I mean, you think about stuff like CS doesn't really have anything else. Riot Esports doesn't really have anything else. Overwatch League doesn't have anything else. StarCraft 2 doesn't really have anything else. I think Dota was always on top, and now it's just normalizing to the rest of esports because of, again, probably just all connected to financials. Running a content team, like before, I think in ESL Genting, we actually did have a content planner. Now it's just kind of thrown in the wind. If we have a free day, think of something on the spot, do something for skits. There's not even time to process it. You know, whereas in Genting, that was very long format, like 2 years ago. That was pretty drawn out in terms of the teams being on LAN. We had 2 full content days, if I recall right, and we had an actual like content plan. So I think it's just a difference in the scope of the events now, the budgets they're running off of. It hits every aspect of the esports, not just talent, not just players, but production, admins get cut down. You know, it's like there might not be enough physical crew to actually run a good amount of that in the event, and there might not be enough time.
I mean, you're probably right. You're probably right, John. It just makes me question like more things. Like, all right, if we don't have enough time and money, then why are we offering $1 million prize pools then?
That's the question. That's
my thing, right? We're cutting talent. We're cutting talent pay. We've got no content. We've got no skits. Where our staff's getting cut. You know, but hey, guess what, guys? Good news. We've still got $1 million+ prize pool. That's all that matters apparently. As long as the number's 6 digits. Who cares what else we have to offer? That's my big complaint. That is my big complaint. If we're making cuts, let's make cuts where it should be first. The prize pool. Why is the prize pool the last thing to get cut? I don't understand. It's not. I don't think $1 million is going to make it. Like, just offer $500,000. You know, it's an extra $500K for you to throw out and do something else with. I don't know. It's just a never-ending thing. Like, now, you know, $1 million. Who cares? What's the difference? What's the 500K to? What's the difference, John?
I think it's because, you know, when prize pools go down, the community tends to feel very insecure. right? I don't think it's even the players. I don't think it makes... I mean, they say it makes a difference whenever they go to Riyadh and TI, but honestly, I don't think it makes that much of a difference, whether it's 1 mil or 500,000. I think the big thing is, if and when prize pools go down, the community will riot. And that's the mindset, because you see at TI, you know, once that upward climb of more stop, people proclaim, what did they say about TI? They say TI is dead. If all 4 tournaments hit 500k instead of 1 mil that they're used to now, I think there's a chance that the community backlash will be directed towards it. Instead of them looking, oh, okay, so there's more budget for this now, the event can be longer, we can do more content, we can get more talent on site, do stuff together. They'll be like, no, it's not as hype anymore because it's not 1 mil. And I think that's the issue. Like, the mindset in the community is bigger is better, without considering anything else. And that's a part of it.
I mean, it might be. I don't know. I didn't think the backlash to the TI thing was that bad. I think people were more upset.
It was pretty bad.
It was. I feel like they were more upset because of the way the prize pool was being. Like, there was more money going to Valve and less money going to the TI prize pool, because there was that whole thing where it was only 25% of the later part of the what was it, the compendium or battle? I don't even remember.
That was
what
a battle pass at
year.
that point. You're thinking about the battle pass, our last battle pass. Last year was the compendium, where it was very esports focused, which is, I feel like, the way Valve wants to go going forward for sure. Like, again, we basically have our battle pass in the form of our event right now. I already forget the name for some reason, but our event running right now, that's Crownfall. That's basically our entire battle pass, segmented into 4 parts. And yeah, I think last year is fair. I think the reason of getting mad, like last year, pretty fair when Valve took away the last part instead of contributing to TI. It was post TI, but still, the backlash was pretty severe in terms of last TI, you know, being very esports focused, and suddenly no one cared. And then when no one cared, people were crying about the prize pool. I think, I don't know, like, I remember a time when people were pissed off, like, in the DPC cycle, the majors were what, 500k, Mikey? I don't think it was a mil. And people were complaining that it wasn't like the old... People were already saying it's not like the old DPC. Oh, you know, when we had Frankfurt major, that was a mil. Bring back the 1 million tournaments. Guess what they did? ESL brought back the $1 million tournaments. And that's the direction they went because of fan feedback.
But that's the thing, though. Like, you've already ripped off the Band-Aid, haven't you now? Like, TI is not offering 45 mil anymore. Like, the Band-Aid's off. Right? Like, I think the ego check that we all had as Dota 2 players of, like, we can't show off about having a $50 million prize pool anymore is, you know, I think our egos are in check now. I don't know. When does it end? Do we just let Dota die because we can't let the prize pool get below 6 digits now? Is that what we're going to do? Right? Because yeah, eventually, you know, like, the money's going to keep drying up. It's going to come from somewhere. What are you going to do? There's no more talent? Like, we'll find an AI program. And I mean, you were joking about this the other day.
Yeah, I was.
AI casting. Let's get the AI casting going. Let's do that.
Yeah. Let's get the players out. Get your own AI teams lined up. Boom AI. Blacklist AI. Aurora AI. Yeah.
No money necessary. No money. They don't even want prize pools. The AI doesn't care about prize pools. How great would that be? You could literally just put the infinity symbol there and people would believe it. Because in theory, like, how would they know we didn't pay the AI? It's genius.
That's the next step. That's the next step, Mikey. That's what we're all looking. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
As a man who cares about the longevity of the game, and that's really all I care about. I don't give a shit if they pay me fucking half the money or double the money or whatever. I don't care. You know, I'm a couple years away from just putting it up anyway, just being like, fuck it. I'm mid-30s. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm gonna retire. You know what I mean? I don't care. It's all about the longevity of the game now. I want to see Dota 2 last, so that maybe my kids will have a chance to grow up and be like, hey, Dad, that was a cool game you played. Do you think there's people still playing? Do you think I could try? You know? Like, that's what I want. I want the longevity. I want my kids' generation to experience how great the game was. Just like we got to.
Yep.
I don't care about $1 million prize pool for every tournament. I don't care. Make it 100 for all I care. Remember when BTS did the summit for 100k?
Yep.
And the tournaments were like the best tournaments every year. Yep. They were hilarious. They were entertaining. Everyone loved it. Everyone raved on about it on Reddit. Nobody cared that it was a 100k prize pool. Nobody gave a shit. Even the players didn't care. The players, till this day, you could ask the players, would you be happy going to the summit for 100k overdoing $1 million tournament, I guarantee you half those players at the very minimum would probably be like, you know what? It would be fun to be back at the sub. It would be fun. Who cares about the money? You know?
Yeah, pretty much. I think, I don't know. We'll have to see if the adjustments, if any of the TOS adjust next year to the benefit of like utilizing a lower prize pool. I don't know anymore. Who knows? I think, I don't know. I feel like new players coming into Dota is still really rare, and that's where it falls flat. But I feel like, I guess we as a community could be doing so much more. Like we could do the advertising ourselves, make it look hype. It just doesn't feel like that should be on the community more than anything else. But it feels like that's what has to happen. Sadly, it's just the way it is. We lose our one big advertising in TI, which I think that was the only good justification I had for like the prize pool being way bigger than anything else, was because it brought eyes to Dota 2. It's not going to do that anymore. Not for your casual, non-Dota watching viewer. It's not going to have that same draw. And I think we kind of have to be ready for that going forward.
As we do, Jonathan. Can we go on? I suppose we'll move on from this topic. Enough complaining about money. Let's talk about the golden era of Dota 2, Jonathan. We were just talking about somewhat of a golden era with the summit and everything else. I couldn't help but notice Reddit had a post saying, remember the golden era of Dota 2, and there was a bunch of photos of, Arteezy and whoever else, Seb and all that. There's the legends of the game that haven't qualified to TI this year, Jonathan. And it makes you wonder, because there is a few rumors going around, and when I say a few, I mean a lot of players thinking about retiring for a bit or taking a break for a bit or whatever else. It's going to be a very interesting time now that we're having all these legendary players kind of retiring. John, what are you thinking? Like, what's the effect it has now? Because a lot of people are very kind of specifically fans of particular players, and they tend to follow them around in teams and whatever else. When those players are gone, what happens to the game?
I think the game goes on. I don't think it's it's as detrimental. I mean, you already have that older generation eclipsed anyway by teams like Team Spirit and their lineup. Falcons and their lineup. They aren't the oldest of the bunch when it comes to legacy orgs and legacy players. Outside of maybe Snaking, you could make an argument for. We already kind of went through this when Peter Pandam, what handle did he used to go by? Good God, how did I forget?
PPD?
Yeah, PPD. I don't know why I remember this. I don't know. We had that when PPD kind of retired. Universe Sphere, I think that was like the first generation. I feel like for a lot of these players, it's going to be a bit of a tragic loss. It's going to feel sad no matter what, but I think the scene will survive. I don't think it's bad for the scene. In fact, I think it could make broadcast interesting, because what tends to happen when they retire, Mike, they tend to go into broadcast. So they'll be on the analyst desks. I'm sure that will actually keep a lot of people happy.
I forgot about that.
So it's not the end of the world. They'll be there. More than likely, they'll be taking up analyst space. If not, they'll look for a co-caster if they want to go that direction. So it's like, I don't think it's bad. I think it is sort of time to let others take those slots. Let other people take those additional slots. Viewers will cry about it, but life moves on. These players can't just, in as much as they want to, at some point you have to you look back and like, is this enough? Do you have other things to focus on? Like some for players becoming dads, they have that to focus on. So it's like, yeah, I don't fault them. I think a lot of fans will be sad. I think there's still room for them in the scene for sure. And I think it's, a big hit still in the long run. It allows other players to kind of try to move in and take that attention for themselves now.
It is going to be funny to see them kind of committing to broadcasting. I think a lot of players don't particularly realize what really goes on like behind the scenes, and that you don't get to see many pro players really kind of moving into broadcasting. I feel like as much as you would have anticipated from the previous generation. Like you had Fear that came in. Props to Fear. Who else was there?
Blizzard, Fogged, Winter.
Yeah, but I don't want to be that guy, but I'm sure if you ask Lizard and Fogged, hey guys, would you guys consider yourselves on the same level as Seb or Puppy? I'm pretty sure they'd say no. I'm asking about more memorable players, better players, TI winners, Jonathan. You know,
Yeah.
like the big boys. Who's coming in for the big boys to broadcast for Dota 2? Who is it? Like Seb? Is Seb gonna do it? Seb doesn't need to do it.
Yeah,
he do it for fun, but he doesn't need to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Seb and No-Tail do a bunch of TIs. They were always great there. But as a full-time thing, I don't think they need to. And I don't know if they'll pursue it. It would be nice to have, you know, I don't know if there are rumor mills about Puppy. I think Puppy would be an amazing analyst guy on desk. I think he would be amazing. He would tower over literally everyone as well. It would be such a pain in the ass for the camera operators to frame it. Like, Puppy, could you shrink like a full foot, please, Puppy? Thank you. So we can get everyone on cam proper. But no, I think there's some fun potential there if some of these players will want to stick to it. I think there's definitely a lot that can be done with it for sure.
It is all very interesting. It kind of goes like you kind of think about it as well. And I know Math Magician just brought it up in the chat, Jonathan. But it's like they could just start streaming tournaments on their own, as we kind of already have a lot of streamers doing every event. In fact, the amount of streamers, this might be another topic for us to kind of go over as well. The amount of streamers casting Dota 2 events right now, instead of the actual main stream, is pretty ridiculous. Now, I'm not going to name any names, because we know a lot of these people, but there's a lot of people on Kick, on Twitch, on whatever else, whatever other streaming platform you have, Facebook, YouTube. There's a lot of unofficial streams out there. Now, most of those streams, I want to say, aren't following the rules either. Which, listen, I don't care. The way I see it is, if they're getting more viewership than what I'm getting when I'm casting, that's my problem, right? That's the way I see it. The caster should be better than the player at casting the game. The problem is, obviously, if you're a fan of the player, you're just going to go to the player. Yep. Like, let me just name a name that's like really easy to use, because it's always Cuckoo's fault. If Cuckoo's streaming, if Cuckoo's casting Blacklist game, of course I'm going to go to Cuckoo's stream. Of course. Not that I'm saying that happened. I'm simply saying, hypothetically, if Cuckoo was to stream Blacklist games, I would be there, is what I'm saying, right? Is this going to be a problem as time goes on, John? Because there's more players retiring. Chances are most of them are just going to start streaming, because they're going to realize retirement's really, really, really boring. And there's nothing to do in your mid-30s when you're retired. So, you know, time to go stream. Oh, hey, look, there's a tournament going on. Everyone's going to respect my opinion. Let me just get an extra 10k viewers by turning on the stream without any delay and talking about it like the main cast does. What do you think about that, John? Because it feels like it's going to become more and more of a problem now.
I think it is a problem. Like, I get that why some of the other streamers do it for sure. And to be fair to them, I think what they do is, I think there should be a little bit more leeway in allowing like watch parties and stuff. I think it's better to work together with these kinds of players and streamers. There used to be arrangements like that, right? Like, it used to be easier. Like, you know, people like Gork would get like an exemption to co-stream without delay to talk to his chat. Doesn't really have the caster sub, has it mute, talks about his own thing in that. Yeah. And I think that's decent content. That's a very good way for a lot of these TOs to use their numbers, piggyback on it, and boost their own numbers when they're selling to advertisers. I think that's... Yeah. But they have to work together. I think they have to work together. And I think that's where the issue rises. A lot of our friends that I love to mention that do it, they do have their own sponsorships and they do their call-outs on the stream. Now, mind you, again, it's no business of mine, but for sure, from a TO's point of view, that is one part that's very hard to reconcile. And I think... That's
my thing. That's my thing, John. Like, I'm gonna get a little bit cheeky here for the viewers that aren't aware. That basically what John's trying to say is sponsors. One of the metrics they look at is the viewership numbers and the amount of times, for example, your tournament gets Googled or comes up on Twitter or whatever. Like the amount of times your tournament gets kind of typed into a browser or something. And naturally, the viewership metrics and the other metrics that kind of talk about how much your tournament's being talked about, naturally they go up if there's other streamers that are casting the game, right? For example, if Cuckoo was to start casting the game, maybe his viewership only goes up by 2k, right? Maybe he's already at 10k, it goes up to 12k. But now that he writes in the title, casting BTS Pro Series 5, now you, as the tournament organizer, could be like, hey, we're BTS. we've recently looked at our metrics and realized we've gone up by 100% because we got an extra 12k viewers. We only had 12k viewers before, right? And then the sponsor goes, wow, you guys doubled your viewership. Guess we should pay you more money because you have double the viewers now, right? Our metrics went up. That's basically what's kind of happening, isn't it? That's really what's happening. That's not sustainable though, John. You can't sustain that because eventually they're going to pick up on what you're doing. You can't do it. I don't know. It's not good business, is it, John? It doesn't feel like good business to me.
I think again, that's what has been happening, and I think honestly it's a good thing because the advertisers still get all your stuff. I think it's just hard to coordinate with these streamers to show those advertisers without showing their own. I think that's the issue. That's where it feels like it is a swindle. And that's where it's a swindle. And again, that's why these things aren't right now. They're not official with a lot of these streamers. I would love it to be, but they would. I think it's also a matter of if they had to do it that way, like even without delay, but no self sponsors. I think financially they would be very motivated to do something else. Unfortunately, I think that's the mindset that comes out to them. And I don't know. I'm trying to think of ways to make that work. It's kind of a bad way to go. Like, say you go to this pro player who is going to stream, say, hey, we want you to co-stream. We'll give you, let's say, we'll give you $1,000 to co-stream. Just make sure you play the ad audio. Don't use the in-game casting audio when you're talking over it, but play the ad audio when it's up in between the breaks, at least to be audible while you're watching. And I think that's a bad precedent because there's no way to enforce it unless you DMCA them. You become the bad guy. You end up in a situation where big streamers can suddenly go to you and say, hey, we want to co-stream. Can you give us the XXX so we can run your ads while we're watching? It feels like it can also be abused in a very weird way. I think it's just really hard to, like, in a perfect world, everything would just work. Like, your co-streamers would just be like, all right, we'll run the ad audio when it's up on the main stream. We don't need to touch it. We'll run off delay. No, none of our own sponsors will be happy. Like, we can maybe get our own donations, all of that, their subs, whatever. That's all in their channel. That's fine. It's just near impossible to implement, and I think that's the shame of it. Like,
that's my thing. That's my thing, though. Imagine you had a Coke sponsorship, but then you notice the second biggest stream is sponsored by Pepsi. You know, you're telling me Coke's not eventually going to realize what's going on? Of course they are. Of course, because when the money dries up, when recessions start to hit global economies, and you have to really think about where you want to throw your money to advertise your brand, believe me, they will find out that your metrics aren't as good as they once looked. And then maybe you were being a little bit on the cheekier side with the numbers, right? And it's just not sustainable. It could really cause some problems in esports, right? And this is not just Dota 2. This is practically every esport out there, right? It could really cause some issues if the big sponsors out there realize, hey, wait a minute, all these numbers are fudged. They're not real.
To be fair, you're assuming that TOs like ESL and PGL are using these third-party non-official co-streamers as part of their metrics. They are not. So all of these are unsanctioned. They're not in, like, the decks for presentation, which is why it's pretty annoying. Like, they're still showing only their official numbers, so there's no swindle there. Like, none of these co-streamers are official, so none of them are listed. None of these TOs are fudging their numbers because they know that just completely removes the trust. So I will raise that up. I think your point is that they're using these third-party streamers to fudge it while they're running their own. They don't give these licenses out anymore. Like, again, like, you look at the co-streaming rights for the Riyadh Masters, you have to be on a 5-minute additional delay on the 15-minute delay they have in the game. You can't use the direct broadcast. No one has co-streaming rights for that unless Gork does. I think he always gets an exemption because he does play by the rules, but I'm not sure if he does right now. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I get your concern in that it's a swindle. At the same time, no one's swindling because no one's an official and no one's using those numbers, which is why it pisses off the TOs right now. And always has. So it's not, they're not swindling. Again, when they sign on, that's when they can use the numbers because they play by the rules. No one's signing on.
Okay. All right. It's just, I heard something very, very different to what you just said to me. But I can't,
Really?
you know what? We're getting into rough waters now. I think we probably should start to steer clear of this conversation because I have heard something. But I'm not calling out any names, right? I've heard a different story. Probably wrong. Who cares, right? Maybe someone was just lying. Who gives a crap? Anyway, that could be a problem if it was happening. I'll go with your story, John. I'm going to just say it's not happening. John X5 is right. It doesn't happen. Don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen. Everything's fine. Anyway, anything else happened recently, Jonathan, you want to talk about?
Not in particular. No, I mean, outside of the casting, we had, what, 2-3 days of break? Not really much going on that time period.
I was going to ask you something. I wanted to bring up a topic. It's a little bit... I know it's an interesting topic for you in particular. I don't know if you're going to feel very happy talking about this, but I'm going to throw you the question, Jonathan. Because I think it's a pretty interesting insight to how casting can be, especially for someone like you. This was what, maybe TI qualifiers, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we were casting. What were we casting? What was the last series we cast? Can you remind me? It was Talon
Aurora
versus
TNC. Aurora TNC was the last series overall.
Oh, Talon already qualified, and then Aurora TNC happened.
Yeah.
Right. And I couldn't help but notice. So obviously there's an interesting conundrum that happens with John X5 when it comes to casting SEA games. If you cast Filipino teams, you're biased. If you cast Talon, you're biased. And if we cast any SEA team versus any other team in the world, you're biased, right? Because you're Southeast Asian. So no matter what John Xmike does, he's biased, according to some of the crowd. Now, allow me to quickly, just for the sake of putting it out there, John Xmike is not actually biased. He actually knows all the players and they're all great friends. Like, if John Xmike is biased to anything, he's biased to SEA Dota, just like I am. We're both biased to SEA, right? But I wanted to ask you, John, how do you do it? Like, what kind of emotional effect does that have on you? Because I couldn't help but notice TI qualifiers. You know me, I like to go through the Twitch VODs. I like to watch what the chat's saying. I like to listen to how we're sounding. Couldn't help but notice. Talon game comes around. Upper bracket final. Talon wins. John X5 is biased. And then the lower bracket comes around. TNC versus Aurora. Naturally, John X5 is biased towards TNC. How do you feel about it, Jonathan? How do you emotionally kind of deal with these things?
It's interesting because I tried to look and see if any of that is accurate by my own metric. I think going into like in specific examples here for the Talon Aurora one, I was kind of shitting. I was already saying Talon's going to lose. I kept saying it.
Yeah.
And that maybe it made it more. Maybe that's why it sounded more biased towards the end, because when a team you're expecting to lose just wins, you suddenly get excited. So, but to be fair, I was kind of shitting on Talon. I was like trying to pump up Aurora as much as possible. When it came down to Aurora TNC, I think I did remember seeing someone that I was laughing excessively. I was laughing because they were running the freaking Tinker. It lost, but it was hilarious. You have to admit, the entire sequence of events TNC did in that game one was hilarious. And I think it also comes out, it's really strange sometimes because people attribute certain things, especially in the Southeast Asia matches, to bias when, sometimes, when you sound a little dead, it's mainly, sometimes it's because there's literally nothing happening. And I believe Game 2 of TNC versus Aurora was a long stalemate that Aurora was just slowly winning. So I was going back to the same point over and over, and I think it's hard to recognize that as a viewer. But when a caster has to go back to the same points or trying to nitpick every tiny thing, it can make you sound a little bit more out of it because you're really digging in. Like that's why for me, like the hardest part of a game, Mike, is when it's 30 minutes and we know it's gonna hit 60, but there's still stuff happening, but it's not gonna end. So you're trying to make all of these things sound bigger, but it's not gonna build up into anything. And you have to, once you hit 50 minutes, that's where it can get fun. That's my. I don't know if you feel the same exactly, but I think the dead zone of 30 to 50 and the game doesn't end is the hardest part to cast. Early mid-game is fine. A lot of things are impactful. 30 to 50, when things are just building up to that moment and it's just going to go on for another 40, that's where it's like, they're farming, they're building up. Maybe they take Roshan, maybe take not, and we have close calls. It can be a bit deadening, I think, honestly. Like, that's the deadening part of casting. That time frame.
It is. I only bring this up not only to give a bit of insight, right? Because I think it is an interesting insight. Maybe people assume you don't see that or I don't see it. We do see it. I like to ask this question because I don't know if you noticed, Jonathan, but during those TI qualifiers and even during Riyadh, I've been being a little bit cheeky and I've been playing into it a lot more than I usually do. You know, you
I
and I,
noticed, yeah, for sure.
yeah, you've noticed, right? So John and I, in case you weren't aware, John and I generally do banter a lot, which is pretty authentic. In fairness, it's not put on. We don't talk about anything before we start a game. We just we go in, and authentically enough, the chemistry's there, right? And recently, I thought to myself, you know what? I've been a bit easy on johnxmike. I'm going to go a little bit harder on him. I'm going to, you know, we're casting a lot of blacklist games. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say johnxmike is a blacklist hater. I'm going to label him as a blacklist hater. I'm going to see how he does with it. This is the thing with our duo, is I tend to throw John under the bus a lot without telling him. You know, I just throw him into the deep end and see what happens. That's what I like to do, you know? And I quite like that. I gotta say, Jonathan, I like giving you a lot of shit on casting it. I think people secretly like just calling you biased at this point.
Yeah,
I think it's become the meme where you're just biased, no matter what you do.
Yeah, it feels like I've seen that on literally every matchup. Every Talon match, even though I know I'm casting and I'm seeing Talon is doing absolutely the worst things in the world, I'm still biased. I'm like, yeah, all right. It's fine. It's fine. I get it. You know, I mean, it just takes me back to, remember our old days, Mike? When people would say the exact same thing, and we were casting like tier 2 Dota, and we're like, oh, these casters are so biased. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? It's 20-0. What do you want me to say? Oh, the 0 team out are going to come back? You know, this is nothing. It's like, no, it's 20-0 with a 20k lead. What do you want? And there's always like a couple of people like that. It's just insane to me. It's insane.
I find, I mean, I don't want to make this about race, but there's always particular races that get more annoyed with you as well. Like, I really find, like, you know, what is it? Go on, say it.
I feel like because of this is because of what I did in the CDPC. I really wrote that meme last year, Mike. I wrote what 23 said hard, my boy Nguyen. I just, you know, I knew it. I saw it. I was like, this is content. We're going to go in. We're going to make it spicy. You know, we made that CDPC spicy. But I feel like it got the attention of both the Filipinos and the Thais. And they're both like, oh, John's biased towards the Thais. Oh, John's biased towards... It's like, guys, what are you talking about, guys? I like memeing about it. I don't genuinely believe anything about the 5 or 2 Filipinos. I understand also, you know, I can't believe I have to clarify. I really did... When Savage said that, I was on his side.
Yeah.
You know, when it came out, you and I were talking, like, yeah, he's not wrong. You know, I mean, I get it, but he's also not completely wrong. He got kicked from T1 because of that. You know, it's like, hey, you can't fault the guy.
We've already gone too far. He's talking about the Filipino thing. You can't have more than one Filipino is what John's referring to.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, at first it was a very serious thing, and then it just... I did. I think we had a podcast, but I don't know if we did, but I remember agreeing with it. It's like, you know, Savage is not completely wrong at that point, you know, and I think at that point, it was kind of that vibe. That was what a lot of Filipino teams were doing. You think about, I think Neon ended up kicking a few of their Mongolian players for more Filipinos at some point. Again, T1.
Yeah.
And then they just ended up forming up Blacklist, which kind of took that issue away for a while because they were just all Blacklist. So, you know, it's like, but yeah, that was I really enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't enjoy, you know, having this conflict, but I enjoyed memeing it. You know, like like the Abed Gabby thing. My tongue gets twisted on that. The Abed Gabby thing, Gabby thing. It's fun to meme, but it's also like, I only felt comfy with it when Gabby started memeing about it. Before that, I really didn't want to, you know, steer the fire. When once he was memeing, I was like, all right, you know, let's go with it.
Oh, I was gonna stop the pot straight. I couldn't give a crap. These players, they get a bit too sensitive sometimes. I couldn't care. In fact, I dare say the more sensitive the player, the more I want to pick on them every single time.
Oh man,
every time.
I swear there's a content piece waiting there if Blacklist will want to do it. A literal sanctioned amateur fight with a lot of Filipino talent. You have Yoe, you know, he's been taking up boxing, I guess. You have Abed with the legendary Tusk Punch. You have Gabby, who should get some training in. And there's some good content there.
Well, that's an interesting topic you just brought up, right? Because I can't believe we've spent the last 2 episodes of our podcast after a year talking about Blacklist for like half of each of it. But I'm going to talk about Blacklist again, I suppose. With all the free advertising Blacklist is getting from our 100 viewers right now. the whole Garbet thing, right? The whole Abby,
Mm.
the whole Abed and Gabby thing. I could Abby,
Yeah,
yeah,
see, it's a tongue
yeah.
twister.
It's hard, right? But the whole Garbet thing, right? Like if you're blacklist, I think first of all, how's the roster still together? That's the first question, right? Because if you get punched, I don't care who you are. If you get punched in the face by your teammate, chances are either you or that teammate doesn't want to stay in the team,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's like you don't want to lose Abed, but you don't want to lose Gabby either. So it's a very hard choice for the blacklist organization to make. Like, who do we get rid of? Someone just got punched in the face. Who cares who's at, like? It's not about who's at fault, because you're trying to win, which means you want to keep the best player, right? So like, as much as it might have been Abed's fault, we don't know. Maybe it could have been, you know? Maybe it's Gabby's fault. Maybe we don't know. It probably was, right? But we don't know 100%.
yeah.
What I'm saying is, after TI, or after Riyadh, I suppose I should say, because they're not going to TI. After Riyadh, do you stay as 5? Or do we cut that Garbet in half, Jonathan? Do we get rid of one? Now, I'm saying this assuming, for starters, that Blacklist sticks around after Riyadh. And secondly, as well as that, like, Garbet is carrying your team right now. There's no two ways about it. Gabby and Arbet, as much as they could hate each other with a passion right now, but they're working well together. It's looking good. Do you really want to split that up?
Yeah, I think, and I will give big props here to, I think Gabby definitely deserves some now, because I feel like with the way he's joked about it, and then again with the way that these events transpired, and as far as I know, which I will not comment further, but the fact that he managed to make amends, because with Abed, I mean, I get it, he was the one punched, but to push a guy like Abed, we've been stating this time and time again, to push a guy like Abed to the point where he will physically punch you takes a lot. So the fact that I think, and when you see them on stream, it's very amicable. Like, they are laughing together. It looks like they've patching things up. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of maturity, and I think, you know, the punch, I'm not saying the punch was something that should happen. You should punch people to make them better. No. But I think the way Gabby took himself afterwards, instead of being like more antagonistic, you know, he could have said more things on stream or whatever. It led to self-reflection, which I think was very important, not just for the team, but as a person. I think it's a very important thing for personal growth. So I will give props there that they made amends enough that, you know, again, we see them laughing together. It doesn't feel forced. And especially you and I and Riyadh, we do see, like, we have 2 feeds. We have 1 camera feed, and I see the camera feed all the time. And, you know, I see it, and Blacklist don't look like a team that's tense. They don't look like a team that just had a punching incident a few months ago. So I think it's a sign of personal growth, and I will give props to that. And to your question, whether or not this team sticks together, I don't know after Riyadh. What I do want to see is content, though. I mean, Lane had a point. I see Lane in chat. Shout out to you, Mr. Alphon. He is right. This is the right way. They should have done it on Blacklist. Like, instantly after they release the apologies for it, say everything's amended, they should have turned it straight to content, you know, to wash off the stigma of it. Instead of letting kind of Gabby and the rest of the community meme about it, they should have taken control of it after dealing with the issue at its core. Make it content. Yeah. Like, I think that's still a direction they could go, and I would join if they want me in.
That's what I think. I think a lot of SCA orgs, I think they could fly us out and we could just do the content for them. Like, I could write. There's so many good ideas. I mean, no SCA team's done it yet, but you know, call us out. You know, 1 or 2 cameras. We'll make the content for you. My God, it doesn't have to be cringy. Trust me, I'll make it uncringe. I promise. Like, we don't need to do the whole. I hate to take shots, John, but we don't need to do content pieces where there's a whiteboard and we're asking the players some questions and what's your favorite food and oh my God, he doesn't like chicken. Like, we don't need to do that, right? We can do funny stuff. It doesn't have to be cringy. Just give me a call. But like, excuse me, Mr. MLP, do you have time to fly over to SCA to allow us some content? Of course I do. Anything for you, Blacklist International. Call me anytime. I'll take care of it. I agree with your points, by the way, John. Shout out to Gabby. Can I just say, I also agree on that fact that Gabby does deserve a bit more respect. I always looked at Gabby and thought, okay, this guy's a troublemaker, He's a great player, a lot of talent, but
Yeah.
he likes to make trouble.
Yeah.
He's a drama queen, is the way I'm going to put it. He's the guy that, you got a group of friends. He's the guy that stirs the pot. He just instigates a little bit, He really looks at Tims and says, Tims, do you hear what Arbit said about you? Hey, Arbit, do you see what Natsumi did? Like, you got to carry another game, Arbit? Natsumi's not doing shit. That's the kind of guy Gabby is, right? I've got to give mad props to the guy because, like you said, it's not easy to get punched in the face and then say, listen, it was my bad. I was in the wrong. Sorry for saying what I said. That is the mark of a true man, I want to say. It is very hard to put your ego aside. And let me tell you, when I look at Gabby, I see an egotistical motherfucker. Like, that guy has... he looks like he's got a huge ego. Huge. So for him to put that aside and say, Arbit, listen, my bad. I'm sorry. Let's play the game. That's massive. That is on. I gained so much respect for him after he did that. I really did. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that when I do see Gabby, I'm going to intimidate the living crap out of him because he still, till this day, hasn't said hi to me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. At least now I know I'm approaching a man.
Yeah. It's a good sign. I think there's still a lot in personal things that he has to be very introspective about, but the fact that he's able to at least again move with the ego is a sign of some growth, and I think again that does deserve a little bit of a praise, despite us kind of always poking the wound there. It's like, hey, the punch.
But that's another thing, right? Like, the fact that he hasn't messaged you or well, he's not going to message me because he doesn't have me on his friends list. I'm not going to lie to you, but the fact that he hasn't messaged you and said, hey, John, can we calm it down with the punch jokes? Because I've had players that have approached me and asked me to calm down on particular jokes before. It has
we've had
happened.
one case. Yeah.
You've had one case. I've had some cases, right? And I'll tell you what, I find it kind of embarrassing, quite frankly. I'm like, listen, bruv, like, first of all, your job is to play the game. My job is to be entertaining, right? You go play the game. Let me be the entertainer, right? Don't tell me how to do my job. Whatever, like, if something you did in the public eye, like, if I speak about it, I'm well within my right, Jonathan. It was within the public eye.
Yeah.
If I do something stupid and Reddit talks about it in 2 minutes, I can't complain about that. I work in the public eye.
Yeah.
You can't complain. Yeah, you can't. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But props to Gabby for not complaining about it. I give him props for that because there's been players that have messaged us, say, guys, take it easy. I'm a little bit upset. I'm a little bit sensitive. Just take it easy. Shout out to Gabby for not asking us to take it easy.
Yeah, again, definitely a little bit of growth from our boy Abed. Still a ways to go, but it's a sign. Oh, Gabby. It just it entered the mind again. I don't know.
Maybe it is growth for Abed, though. You did say you could never imagine Abed punching someone in the face.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Abed said, no. You don't have to imagine. I'm going to show you this motherfucker. It was something.
I can't wait for the ring match. Yoe, Abed, Gabby. Who else can we take? If I'm not commentating, I can join in. Would be fun. Maybe a Tagalog versus Bisayawa match.
Yeah.
Instead of their Pustaha nights. That could be one way to settle. That would be so funny. I don't know. I think they would say no.
Someone was asking if we're allowed to hand out the schedule for the games we're casting. I don't think we are allowed to.
I don't think so. No.
So probably we can't. I apologize. We can't tell you what games we're casting. Spoiler alert. Probably it's gonna be the later games. Spoiler alert. That's all I can give you. Late games. Anyway. I'm trying to think of the point I was just about to bring up before I answer that question. I believe there was a bit of an issue. I don't want to name the wrong name because this is a very, very, very touchy subject.
Okay.
I think it was JG. It was Neon.
Oh, yes. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. It was a JG that I'm talking about. It was JG.
I think so.
Okay. So there was a bit of a drama that happened because, first of all, shout out to Neon. Obviously, they're no longer an organization that exists for Dota 2 or esports in general. So very sad to hear about that. But there was a bit of an incident on Twitter, I think it was, where somebody called out. I believe it was JG. I really should confirm this right now.
I can confirm. I think it was JG. Yeah.
Okay,
On
you've
Twitter
confirmed it was
threads.
JG. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody called out JG saying, "Hey, why would anyone hire you or whatever because you guys match fix all the time, right?" Or something along those lines. Someone called him a match fixer, and they said, "I have proof." What is going? Correct me.
They called him a bookkeeper, and he was keeping books on setting up bets and sites. But I don't know if he, I don't know if that was the same, because the guy I think he must have been sponsored by that site. So I don't know if he was like working for the site in as much as he was just sponsored at that time. I think it was like 2 years ago or a year ago. I do remember some sponsorships like that. I'm not sure on Cirxia or whatever. Maybe some earlier Neon time, but I do remember something like that. I'm not 100%. The issue stemmed there was because that was the match where Neon picked Meepo and it went to him instead of Siege, if I recall right.
Yeah.
Like JG played
That's
Neon.
the one.
Meepo.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people accuse that of match fixing.
Because
I
you
don't
do
know.
get confirmation before you pick the hero. Do you not?
Yeah.
Like a button, I'm very sure a button comes up saying, "Are you sure you want to pick this hero?"
Yeah, it does in CM.
Now, I could imagine a world where the player is just so used to moving his mouse over and pressing yes that they just didn't think about it. But as a caster who's casted Dota 2 in the SEA region for the last 6 years, Jonathan, I can almost guarantee that 1/3 of the games have been match fixing. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying I wouldn't put it past anyone to throw a match here and there, especially when it comes to regions like SEA, China, maybe even South America. Like I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. It doesn't surprise me if that was the case. Especially because you do see a lot of players from SEA, John. They tend to advertise for a lot of, gambling sponsors, and they put their bet slips on their page. And sometimes it scares me because sometimes I see their team in there, and it's like, well, hold on a minute. It's like, fair enough. We're sponsored by gambling, fine. Already a bit of a question mark, but fine. But then we're like, now we're posting our bet slips with our team. Like you can't. Like there's a huge ethical dilemma there. You can't post betting slips with your team on it, especially if you're about to play. Yeah. And John, I say this as a person who's seen bet slips where they're betting against themselves, and it's like, well, hold on a goddamn minute. You can't do that. Like it's one thing to bet on yourself. It's another thing to bet against yourself.
Oh yeah.
That's just insanity.
Yeah. That it is. I think in this specific case for Neon, it's very hard to say they would do that as like a fix, quote unquote. No, I'm just saying for the context of the viewers. I don't think so. There was way too much in the line. It would be the dumbest thing in the world. I think normally you see it much more subtly. You and I've seen this, Mike. No one's that blatant. So that's what makes it very hard to sell it as a fix. I think you have to be aware. We know they happen. We don't have definitive proof. It's not actionable, but we have seen this in our time in casting, especially in the tier 2 scene. It's definitely not as blatant, for sure. So I am willing to say that was a mistake on JG's part, mainly because I feel like Castaway would have beat him up straight after, and they would have just disconnected if that was an actual on purpose thing.
Well, all right. That's half the issue. The other half of the issue. Let's just, for the sake of being, good people, let's just say JG didn't do anything wrong. It was a complete misclick, whatever. I can completely believe that. I can believe he just moved his hand over and pressed yes. I want to play Meepo. I can believe it. I've done some stupid crap in my time too on Dota 2. But then why are we allowing these players to post betting slip? You can't do that. You can't do it. Like they're too comfortable at this point. Yeah. Like 90% of the players from this region are posting their betting slips on their Facebook pages. And it's like, just because it's on Facebook, nobody notices or cares.
Yeah.
It's like, but if it was on Twitter, we wouldn't have a region anymore.
Yep.
Like all the pro players would be banned.
Pretty much. They're way
I
too
don't.
integrated in. I think that's the issue. This all really started, I want to say, all the way back when you'd have. Remember the PNX bet tournaments, and literally they would have their own sponsored teams playing against each other there, and all of those sponsored teams also had like sponsored streamers that would also just post their betting slips. It's very different from when you have like say Aurora, and the way they sponsor, 1xBet is Aurora is basically 1xBet's esports extension, right? Entirely, and they don't do any of that. They don't show betting slips. They don't require their players to do that. They don't. I don't know if they don't allow, but they certainly don't require it. And I think that's a very endemic issue in Philippine esports more than anything else. I think because it comes from org side and it comes from a personality side where they get sponsored as a personality on stream to do this, and it's a very slippery slope. I've never liked it, and it's really ugly to see it online, and it's sadly the majority of their content as well, which is pretty disappointing.
That's kind of my thing. It's like I wouldn't be that bothered if they were posting. You know what? I'll call out a player because they do the right thing. I've noticed that Gabby again. He tends to post a lot of like NBA betting slips and shit and stuff like that. I have no problem if you're betting on other sports. It's perfectly fine. You're not in the NBA. There's no dilemma there. But like, if you're betting on Dota, it's already a problem if you play the game professionally. Yep. Because you are going to have insider info. There's no two ways about it. If I was betting right now, Jonathan, I promise you, I would have insider information. There's no two ways about it. There's no way a guy on the street is going to have more information about Dota 2 than I am. Like, there's no way. There's just no way. Right? That's why I don't bet, especially on Dota 2, because it would be very unethical of me. Right? Yeah. That's also why you don't do it. Even though I'm sure you and I could both make a crap ton more money than what we get paid to cast Dota 2 for. We don't do it because it's very unethical, right? And we don't want to lose our careers. I just don't understand how we live in a world where pro players are literally posting their betting slips of Dota 2 as professional players on social media. And we're just sitting here willy-nilly like, it is what it is. At least they're securing the bag, Because then, you get on a stream and you see the betting scene and they are just livid all the damn time. They are fuming all the fucking time. You can't cast a tier 2, tier 3 tournament without the betting scene just ripping you a new asshole as a caster. Yeah. And it's always the same crap. It's like, we know that there's like too much shadowy crap happening, but what are you meant to do as a caster? You know how many teams over there, I'm going to say right now, I've reported how many teams over the years to different people. Nothing ever happens because you can't prove it. You can't. Like, how do you prove they're betting against themselves? You can't. I used to tell people that we used to cast to. I used to literally type in chat, in the Twitch chat. If I had proof that they were match fixing, I promise you I would get them banned myself. Yeah. But I don't have proof. Yeah. In which case I can't accuse them of anything. Yeah. Pretty much it. But it's. When we used to cast on, there were some real bad times where I would put my career on the line. I used to just outright give it to the viewers. I used to be like, I didn't say outright like they're match fixing, but I used to make it pretty aware. That they're probably match fixing, Like, you used to be like, oh, maybe they did this because of this. And I'm like, oh, I doubt it, John. I highly doubt it. Oh, look at that, John. This person's in this position. I wonder what's about to happen. Oh, look at that. 5 seconds later, he just got caught out and died. Imagine, And it's not even just SCA. I believe it happens in NA. I believe it happens in SA. God knows it probably happens in Europe. CIS, there's no two ways about that. It definitely happens there. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, let's bring up the number one. Tiger. Tiger was fucking match fixing. Can you believe that? I was embarrassed on his behalf. I go, how can you, as a person that was raised, like, he was molded by the guys at OG. Can I just complain about this a little bit longer? The amount of effort OG put into helping their team, right? And I'm not some OG like dick rider. I give shit to OG all the time, right? Yeah. But the amount of effort those people put into raising their players to be good people and to be great players, and for him to throw that in their face by match fixing because I don't know. I was depressed. Like, how disappointing is that? Like,
Yep.
what were you? They made a documentary about him. They showed you like how hard of a life he had, Vietnamese parents, migrants, whatever else. And then of all things, you were match fixing on the same tournament they were releasing that documentary. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway, moving like it's just upsetting, John. It's just no regions like escaping from this match fixing issue. I feel like, and certainly nothing's going to happen if pro players are literally allowed to log onto their social media accounts and advertise a betting slip of Dota 2 as professional Dota 2 players.
Yep.
There's no two ways about it. Like, you can't. It's just so. It's not just sus. It's corrupt. It's corrupt.
It is.
Oh.
And it's not just the players specifically in the Filipino esports scene. For the casters, I think a lot of them are kind of sponsor things, but I know a few that just actually casually do it. So it's a very endemic problem that I wish wasn't there. I personally don't know how to deal with it, because all the players already know. They joke to me. It's like, hey John, you want to join us? And it's like, no, dead no. I'm not playing any. I mean, they're asking for like, like online casinos and stuff. I already know. I just never do that. They're like, fine. And then they just excuse themselves. But I have no way of trying to convince them to stop. Even not just that. Even just the Dota stuff. It's just kind of out of hand. It makes it really bad. And I think the entire ecosystem in the Philippines has to take a look at itself, because this goes up all the way to, I mean, you look at like some personalities on Q and Nick. I'm not gonna name them. I love all of them, but all of them are really into it as well on high positions. All of them are really into actually using their sponsors casually, not for a paid gig. They do it because they enjoy it, and it's like, it's a problem. It's a very big problem.
I mean, I hate to I hate to talk badly about the people that aren't here anymore. John, wasn't Duno? Shout out to rest in peace. Of course,
yeah.
There was that voice line, easiest money of my life.
He meant it.
I'll give you guys a guess as to where that came from. Easiest money of my life literally means easiest money of his life. Again, rest in peace. Love the guy. Nothing against him. But you know, that was a fucking voice line in the game.
Yep.
Like, nobody picked up on it. That maybe he was being like realistic. Like, it's crazy. Like, if we're being told as casters we're allowed to bet on Dota 2, John, and cast, then why aren't we doing it? Like is it like? But seriously though, right? Like, to give you people an impression of how much information we could have as casters, we're in all the discords. I could DM players right now. I could DM coaches. I could DM the TO bosses. I have spreadsheets full of schedules. I have spreadsheets to tell you who's standing in, what rosters are happening, what tournaments are happening throughout the year. Like, we get given so much information, so much, that if you were a betting person, there's no way you would lose. You can't lose. There's too much information.
Yeah.
Like, the odds are so in your favor with this kind of information. Even just knowing that a team's going to have a stand-in for a tournament, you know how much you could do with that?
Yep.
If a favorite, like, imagine Falcons were like, hey, turns out ATF can't play this week. We're gonna throw in FBZ. Like, what's that gonna do for the team?
Yep.
I'm not saying FBZ is bad, but all I'm saying is, it is not ATF.
Yeah.
It's like, if you have that information prior to a tournament starting, you know how much money you can make off that crap? Not even to a tournament starting, to a game starting. The amount of games where I've been notified 30, 40, an hour, 2 hours before the game even starts, that their best player is not going to be there. Like, Nisha can't log on today. His internet died. We're going to have somebody else. Like, it's guaranteed money. It's guaranteed money every time. It's like, it's crazy to me that people can so blatantly bet and nothing gets done about it. It's crazy. And of all things as well, the viewers that are actually betting for real without the information to guarantee them the win, the guys that you need to throw their money at these betting companies so they continue to sponsor our game, those are the ones that are losing. They're the ones funding the pro players who are match fixing. How crazy is that?
Yep. It's kind of nuts. It's really, I don't know, degenerate is the way I'd put it. I think that's a term I like to use. But it's also really disheartening. I think it's not something I like to personally dwell on because I see it everywhere. You know, it's like it's literally all there. All of them. All of them do it. So it's like I know how to make it a wake-up call. I know even Cuckoo's wife has been limiting him because it's a problem, man. It's a problem. Shout out to Wendy. She's a great gal, but good God.
Are you telling me, I don't want you to expose them, if anything, but usually, as far as I'm aware, especially when it comes to like betting sponsors, like casinos, usually they give you an account with money, you know, fake money, real money, whatever. Are you actually implying to me that they're using real money? Like their own?
Cuckoo himself has implied this, and Cuckoo's wife is on the stream chatting. It's like, hey, I limited your account. Stop asking.
Well, that's...
I don't know if they play it up as a joke. I can see Cuckoo being smart enough to do it as a joke. It felt very sincere. I'm not gonna lie. It felt very sincere. I'm hoping it's a joke, but I can see it not. Yeah.
Have a chat with the boys when we see him then, Jonathan. My God. Again, I mean, you know, John, my dad was a very bad gambler.
Oh, yeah.
And it really does mess up your life. Not just you, but your family, your kids, you know, your mum, whatever. Like, it really messes up your life. And, oh, man, it's... I was under the impression they were just being, like, everyone was just being sponsored. Like, they were just being thrown, like, play money to make it look like they're winning. 100%. Like every other casino.
I know very specifically a few people are not. I'm not sure about most of the pros. I know, again, Cuckoo could be joking about it, but I'm pretty sure most of them are being sponsored, but are also outside of the sponsorship still in it. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if a betting sponsor came up to us and said, "Hey guys, we'd love you to jump on our casino for an hour, and we're gonna pay you like 20K," like, yeah, I'll do it. No worries. I'll literally sit there on the stream the whole time telling my viewers to just not watch. Just be like, don't watch. Just leave me with one viewer. Don't worry about it, guys. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll play some Dota 2 tomorrow. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, who cares? Let me secure the bag. But then it's like, if I've got to use my own money. Like, no way. I wouldn't use a cent. You fund me that account. I will lose all said money that you fund me, and then you will pay me the money you owe me. It's as simple as that. As soon as they say fund your own account, no. It goes. It's a similar thing to smoking. You know, I remember when I was young, right before I started smoking, and I have quit smoking, ladies and gentlemen. Don't smoke. It's horrible for you. But back when I first started smoking, it wasn't the idea of smoking that bothered me. It was the idea of going to buy the packet that bothered me, right? The moment you feel comfortable to approach the convenience store and say, "Can I have a packet of this, please?" and they hand it to you and you pay for it, that's the moment you lose your virginity. And that's the way I see it with casinos, like these online casinos. The moment you deposit your money with your own card, it's all over. They've got you. They've sucked you in. It's the same crap. It's not the actual act that's making you addicted. Or like the entry to the act isn't the act. My point is being you get my point. I've completely lost my train of thought here, John. My point is, you know, gambling bad, still fine for the game. Just don't bet on your own games, please.
Yeah, and hopefully a lot of our players will recognize. I mean, to be fair, I don't think they bet on their own games, but the fact that they bet on Dota is already a really red flag. It's already a very, very bad red flag. That the only reason why no one knows is because no one uses Facebook in the West. No, only we do. It's like no one else does. So that is why. Oh, the number. Shout out to our number one here as well. I haven't seen Dougie in a while. Just wanted to mention him for everyone listening. Hello, Diggy.
Love seeing Dougie here. Shout out to Dougie. Of course, somebody asked, Rebel Heart asked when we're casting. We're casting tomorrow night. I can't tell you which series because we're not allowed to say, but we'll be on tomorrow night. Probably later on the night, just FYI. So, but yeah, that's the thing. I'm not accusing any SCA players of match fixing. I'm simply saying it's crazy to me that you can post this crap on social media showing that you're betting on the game you professionally play, and nobody cares. That is insanity to me. And on top, and the reason why I suppose I want to say it bothers me, John, is because it doesn't get you excited to watch the games.
No.
Like, if you're a new Dota 2 viewer, which there aren't many of these guys, right? But if you're an SCA Dota fan, or you're an SCA person, you're a Southeast Asian person in SCA, you saw your friend share a Dota meme or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go watch this Dota esports, whatever. And then you notice the players are like posting shit on their Facebook, showing that they're betting on Dota. Of course you're gonna be like, oh, this is a scam. Like, there's no way you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch Dota because it's so legit. You're gonna be like, their players are literally betting on the game. This is not legit. This is like, this is just a mafia game. That's what they literally call it.
Yep.
They're in Twitch chat, they literally say mafia every time.
Yeah.
And that's because it is. That's because it is. I never knew that was a legit thing. I never knew that was. Apparently, the mafias literally exist.
No, it does. Yeah.
Part. They literally exist.
Yeah. It's the worst in. Yeah, I mean, you know, all the memes are. There's an inkling of truth for sure. They do exist. The mafia is there. When Taiga kind of exposed that side in like the European end, but it is here in Southeast Asia for sure. Yeah. Stuff like F10K. Oh God.
Crazy stuff. Like there's actually a mafia out there that's getting Dota 2 pros to bet against themselves, like to lose. Like that's crazy to me. Crazy.
It is.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like there are a bunch of guys in suits smoking cigars and doing drugs and just being like, oh, hey,
you give first blood.
Twitch, let's see who gives away first blood.
Let's see if this one first blood. If not, stick. We have the stick. Yeah, it's man.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying it's hard for new viewership to start happening in Dota 2. If you can literally see the pro players are betting on Dota 2. It's craziness. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's insanity. It's insanity. I don't know how you incentivize them to stop though, but hopefully someone will like knock some sense. Maybe you can knock some sense, Mike.
I will have a chat. I feel like Pro just promoting the betting site, they don't know what's going to happen. No. This is my thing, right? I know there are people out there that are going to defend the players by saying, no, wait a minute. There's no way they could predict what's actually going to happen. I'm telling you, as a caster, the amount of information I have, and the pro players have access to 10 times that.
Yeah.
The amount of information I have as a caster is ridiculous. Like, it would give me like 9-1 odds immediately. Like the chances of me winning, like the betting, the games, the bets would be ridiculous based off the information I have access to. The players have 10 times that.
Yeah.
You know? Trust me, they can easily do some very cheeky shit if it comes to it. I just hope not.
Yeah.
I really do.
Hopefully. Oh.
It's good to hear that you've been saying no to that kind of crap, John. I would tell you, by the way, just for the sake of us, you know, being completely clear, if they legitimately, if the pro players that are sponsored by these casinos literally said to you, hey, John, we'll get you paid by the sponsor. All you got to do is stream for an hour. Just stream yourself on this casino. As long as you were to follow the rules that I just mentioned, which were literally just don't bet on Dota and don't use your own money. I'd tell you to do it. I'd call you an idiot for not doing it. But like, why don't you do it? Take the money and run, dude.
It's fair. It's fair. Fortunately, I'm not big enough to be at that dilemma, Mikey. You know, I'm not big enough yet. It's good. It's all good. We chilling. We chilling.
Closer, Jonathan. You're getting closer and closer.
No, it only comes out when we're casting open qualifiers. Beyond that, it's fine. It's like, all right, it's all chill. People want the Dota mic. The children crave for Dota. Okay.
Well, what's gonna happen now in the event that because you've been casting open qualifiers with all the Filipinos?
Yeah.
What happens if good old MLP wakes up one day and says, "Oh, you know what? I've got a day off. I want to cast."
They'd love. They always look for you. Actually, it's like, "Where's Mike?"
Really?
They ask him Filipino, "Where's Mike?" It's like, "Oh, Mike's busy." It's like, "Oh, is Mike coming?" It's like, "No, he's busy." You know, I think Armel is very interested in that because Armel really wants to keep practicing his English.
Does he?
And
that'd be really cool.
And he's really happy to do it with us because he can still speak Filipino. I can translate. When his brain can't keep up, he can still speak Filipino. But he did say he was really interested. I think Kuku as well to an extent.
This is a very interesting idea. So you and I've been saying for a long time, right? And this is going back to a conversation you and I had about 30 minutes ago on this podcast, right? The pro players are slowly starting to retire, and that means that some of them are going to want to be in broadcast, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I've always said, and I truly believe this, out of any caster duo, when it comes to tri-casting, you and I are the best. I truly 100% believe there is no other duo in Dota 2 that tri-casts better than us, right? And that's not saying that the other duos are bad, because they're obviously way better than us. But I'm saying when it comes to having a third person, nobody does it better. I'm going to say that with absolute confidence, right? I like the idea of these pro players starting to approach us saying, hey guys, you want to, like, you know what? I've been wanting to say it for ages. Like, you know, when ESL or PGL or all the big TOs message us saying, hey guys, we want you to work. I've really, really, really been wanting to say, hey, what if we hired a third guy? Get me a pro that everyone loves. Get me Seb. Is Seb playing? If Seb's not playing, get me Seb, right? Get me Gunner. Get me someone everyone really likes.
Yeah.
And put him on with us. And let him practice with us, and let's make something out of it, right? Because I think TriCast is the way to go, honestly, as we do proceed in Dota 2. If pro players are going to start retiring, God knows they're not going to be good enough straight off the bat to just be thrown on camera and just, you know, say 2 words, every 5 minutes. But if you put them in a TriCast, you have an idiot like me that, you know, that finally gets to shut up, so you can talk to the pro player. And then if I notice that he's getting nervous or he has nothing to say, I step in and lead the... We did this already. We did this at TI11. We did this at TI11. We had Celery, we had Gunner. And both of those casts were pretty damn good. I think the one with Gunner was definitely way better, right? But all I'm saying is, I think tri-casts should be more of a thing in Dota 2. I think the fans would love it as well. And hopefully that's maybe a thing that starts to happen, John. Maybe that'd make us more in demand.
It'd be nice.
Again, I think we're the best tri-cast. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I dare anyone to tell me we're not as good as them.
Would be nice. Would be nice. I think they probably just save that for stuff like, you know, TI. Maybe we see it here in Riyadh. I don't know exactly. Feels like they would, but I don't know if the format allows itself. Would be nice to see more. It does feel like we haven't had it as much. I wouldn't mind seeing it just on lands, right? Like even on playoff stages for some ESL parts earlier on could be nice if the interest is there. So would be very fun. But yeah, at some point as well, we should probably get Armel in. I don't want to get them as a group because it will be very chaotic. But like having Armel, having Cuckoo, I don't know if it's better to have them individually or like by pairs, and it could work either way.
It would be funny. But you know what? Now that you've told me Armel actually asks, I'm actually going to show up next time. I'm full going to show up on purpose just to give the man what he wants.
Hell yeah.
I think there's an air of, obviously it'd be kind of like the actual broadcast might be bad because it would be me speaking English, you speaking English, but then you might have to translate to Tagalog or whatever Armel speaks to. Obviously it could sound bad, but I take it as a challenge. I think we can make it actually sound pretty good.
Yeah.
I dare say the Filipino fans would prefer it because they're usually very bilingual when it comes to English and Filipino, and they'd probably be like, oh, this is a very interesting kind of, you know, it's a very interesting thing because you're going to be translating to me and you're going to be translating to Armel, and you know, it's like, is John even translating correctly? Probably not, because nobody knows what the fuck he's saying, you know? Pretty damn good.
It would be. Should have, I want to try it. Yeah, Armel. Thankfully, he's very free at the moment. To his detriment, but he's been very free. You know, him and Cuckoo. So I'm sure there's time somewhere along. They're going to be free for a while. They're dead. Love them, but they are free. That's the reality of it. They have some time right now.
How fast can MLP Dota learn Tagalog through this X5 stream is going to be the question when I join.
Man, I have to say, sometimes when I do those open qualifiers as well, I don't know if I'm going to be with them, right? Because I don't know if they want me there or if they're busy. So sometimes they just randomly switch into them. Then it goes from an English stream to a Filipino stream. Then some viewers get so angry. It's like, oh, why do you have it tagged as English? Oh, it's like, I'm sorry. I'm hanging out with the guys, you know? And they're on... Huh?
When is the next qualifier?
Wallahia Season 2? There's the Blast, whatever the Blast TV thing is doing. There is that as well. So, those are the next two I see. And I don't know when they're happening. Probably after the International. So, it's going to be later.
No, we'll make sure it happens. What is it?
For sure. Shout out as well. Sebedi, he's joking that my talent fee is so high, according to Armel. Yeah, that's why. Because every time I come on Armel, it's like, hey, I paid the talent fee for the caster to come. You know, I did this for you guys, the viewer. It's like, yeah, I'll ride with the joke. I'll ride. I don't have a talent fee. Okay, but it's a good meme. I love Armel. He makes these really good memes.
You know what? Now that I know that, as soon as I come into his stream, I'm just
You'll
gonna
ask for
start
your
being like,
talent
"Oh,
fee.
Armel, so I sent you PayPal. Hurry up, hurry up."
uh, I don't know. Yeah,
Anyway.
Alphonse says there's Dream League qualifiers in the last week of September as well. I did not know that.
That's cool. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I did want to. I don't know how much topics you've got to talk about, John. I feel like I've been bringing up all the damn topics. Nothing? Great. All right. In that case, rumors going around.
Yep.
Rumors going around, particular players retiring, Jonathan. I don't know how much I can talk about. I don't know how legit these rumors are. I have been hearing certain rumors, like I said, that the particular teams, particular players. One of those teams is a North American team, Jonathan, a very big North American team that isn't attending TI at the moment. And there's a particular player that everyone seems to really, really like, including us, that might just be taking a break based off the rumors that have been circulating. What do you think about that?
I think it's right. I think I think he's wanted a break for a while. And that's actually the least interesting one in my opinion. I think the rumors about are like we talked about earlier, the older generation retiring. Like, is Puppy really gonna hang it up? I feel like he still has it. You know, is Kuro stepping back? Will Nigma improve off of that? Will Nigma break up off of that? I think for me, this question about NA, it's like you can kind of see it, even without mentioning names. Everyone already knows who we're talking about, and everyone already knows that this is probably something he needed for a while. So I think it's something that honestly I expected it after last year. I think I was expecting that, not just this year. So it's a little bit later than I'd expected, honestly.
I think it'd be good for him anyway.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, if he took the break, I'm not saying he is, because we actually don't know. It is a pure rumor that that's been circulating around, but it might be nice to just take a break at this point, because obviously things have not been working out. You know, based off the results we've been seeing. Going back to the question you asked, what about players like Puppy? I mean, Puppy, I think, can certainly keep going. I think Puppy's the interesting one, because you look at his roster of players, and I question the roster more than I question him in particular, right? Look, you know, say what you will, John. I'm just stating it how it is. I'm just giving you straight facts. I don't think the roster is to the standard that Puppy should have it at, which makes me question: is it a financial issue? Is there finance issues perhaps that are causing them not to get players that are quote unquote better? You know, or do they really believe in the roster they have? I don't know. Nigma, I mean, do I need it? You know, do I need to walk over this grave anymore, John? I mean, yes, he should retire. I don't know what he's doing. Retire. There's a time to retire. It's time. Go. Enjoy your money. Enjoy your legacy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Go retire. Be a boss. Smoke some cigars. Relax.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree on that one.
Look, if the day ever comes, I truly hope it does. If Kuro ever attends TI and somehow wins it again and proves everybody wrong, I will be the first one in line to apologize. But it is time to hang it up. It's time. It's not going to happen. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What's the value of him being Enigma at the moment? Like, the sponsors aren't going to Enigma because he's there. Like, that's just not gonna, you know, that's not why it's happening. It's like, why even stay at this point? Like, you own the org as well, so why not want the best for the org, right? Which is to win. It's a bit
Pretty
weird.
much. It is a little bit funky, but yeah, I think again for our friend in NA, he does need it. Feels like the boy needs it, Mikey.
Are you avoiding the Kuro talk?
I mean, for the Kuro talk, you already said anything. What, you want me to spit on his grave after you walk over it?
You because I said I said retiring. You just said, yeah, all right, back to the NA boy. You know, it's just
Yeah, because I agree. It's like I don't need to restate everything. You know, we're not filling for time in a Dota game, Mike. We're chilling.
Right,
you know, we're chilling.
All right. Well, I don't know. It's interesting because there's a lot of players that seem to be kind of thinking about it at this point, aren't they? And we are in a weird kind of circumstance as well, where the environment in Dota 2 esports has changed a lot because DPC came and went, which did change the landscape a lot for Dota 2. And now the global economy looks like it's going into a pretty deep recession, which probably means money's going to start drying up for esports, which is never a good thing. And it seems like a lot of players are just saying, hey, I had my run. It was fun. At the very least, I want to break, if not more, you know? Which is, it's kind of sad to see the golden era go, but at the same time, it's like, I look forward to the new players coming up, John. I think there's a lot of new talent that could start to take over.
I think it's already been taken over, and as much as I love these old players, right? Like, Spirit, Tundra, Liquid with their rosters, Younger, although they haven't been doing the best. You know, OG's a new generation every single time. Falcons. I think the era has certainly moved on. Whether or not we've realized it, because these guys are still in the periphery. But the era has moved on. Our top teams don't really include a lot of the old players, with the exception of maybe some legacy players from China. And the game has, and maybe a little bit in Southeast Asia, but the game has been moving on. So, I don't, honestly, it's heartbreaking, but it really doesn't change the pro landscape, to be frank. So I think it might just be time for a few of them. But I think we have been moving on, yeah.
What does change the pro landscape, Jonathan, is SEA players going overseas a lot. Talk to me about that. I mean, we just talked about a very big NA team, which has a couple of SEA players that I am very fond of, personally.
Yeah.
We have other SEA players in other regions. Mena, I'm in particular, is the one I want to point out. What I'm trying to say is, it seems like a lot of our talent currently is either being poached or is overseas at the moment. Do you think they should come back, or should they stay overseas and continue securing the bag?
Well, for our friend in Mena, I think he should be coming back. I think
that's FBZ, by the way. I'm not even gonna hide it.
FBZ,
keep going.
I think FBC should come back. I think I think the interest is mutual in returning. So I don't know when or how that contract works. I know, you know, it's time to come home for friends in NA. I think that one is an interesting conundrum. If are we going to avoid all these names, Mike, or are we just going to say the rumors as they are?
No, I mean, it's obviously we're talking about Yopaj and Skem now. Go on.
Yeah, Yopaj and Skem. If RTZ does retire, right? If he does take a break, the question then is, does this change for Shopify? Because I don't want to blame it on him. You know, a lot of people actually blame it on Bulba, but I also don't think. I'll be frank. We've had talks with him. I've heard from behind the scenes now as well. I don't think that was the issue. And I think, again, the break feels very necessary for RTZ. And I think that changes Shopify. It changes what comes out in their one. It changes their draft. It changes their philosophy behind the game. And I'm actually interested in seeing if Yopaj and Skem can shine in that environment with a different circumstance. I think it's so hard to say because I feel like they do really well with a very strong Southeast Asian team, which, to be fair, I think there's going to be a lot in this roster shakeup again post-TI. Yeah. There's going to be big. Yeah. If talent doesn't stay intact, it's going to be insanity with all of this, with players who could be poached as well.
Talent's not staying intact?
No, I'm assuming they will, but you never know with some contracts. You know, like, what if someone came in and said, WS, I'm going to give you 10 times your salary? It's like, would you fault the kid for saying no at 18 years old? Would you fault him for saying yes when he's 18 and getting 10 times the salary that no one else can match? I can't fault him. And that could happen. I hope not. And I hope if it does happen, you know, honestly, I hope he'd say no. But chances are he'd say yes, and I can't fault him. So post-TI is going to be crazy. I think there's a lot of potential if Yopaj and Skem came back, for sure. I mean, think about other orgs coming back to our homeland here, Mike. Think about Boom. You know, word around is that they might be coming back home. Gary's been posting pictures, new roster. Completely different, again. So,
he should come back.
Like, a homecoming with his two players would be nice, but at the same time, you know, if the rumors in NA are true, it's also an opportunity for NA to finally utilize Skem and Yopaj in a big way.
I really do want Gary to come back to SCA.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal against other teams, right? Because really, we don't have any favorites. Like I said, I mean, we're friends with all the players. Any team that approaches us, we're very friendly. We love to chat with them, whatever. But when it comes to SCA, past couple years, all it's felt like is old teams leaving, new teams coming in, but new teams probably going to leave at the same time. Like that's is Blacklist going to stay? I don't know. Is Aurora going to stay? I don't know. Is Bleed going to stay? Probably not. Like, I'll be frank with you. It's, you know, it's like...
I love that you're like, I don't know, probably not.
Well, I mean, but when I say probably not, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be around, right? So it's, you know, it is what it is. Like, it's like, I want an organization that stays in the region, that actually cares about the region, right? And I think a team like Boom does that. I think Gary legitimately cares to win. First of all, Gary really wants to win, right? Which is something I can't say about most teams. I feel like Gary really, really wants to win, you know? And he's willing to pay you the money so he can win. He's willing to do what it takes to win, right?
Yeah.
And he cares about winning for the region as well. It's not just about his team. He does care, right? So it's like, I kind of want to see him come back, because I want teams that, number one, are actually going to stay in the region and grow their organization, rather than coming here for a year, picking the best players, paying them ridiculous salaries, and then just leaving a year later, or in some cases just not paying their players, right? And bring Boom back, bring Gary back.
Yeah.
Like first of all, he can actually afford a team, and secondly, he actually gives a shit to make a good team. He's not just going to go for the all-star route.
Yeah, and I think Boom, as well as an org, they've been actually the closest one to Talon with how they treat their teams, with the content they build. I think that's the kind of org you want to be really active in your region. Someone who's building not just, results, but like content, awareness of the team, stuff like that is very important. So I think Boom has always had that right mindset. So I'm hoping they come back. It's going to be a loss for South America, but frankly, with HQ so far away, it's not like they could do the same things when they could in Southeast Asia. So I think it's just a little bit tougher, and I'd like to see them back.
If Gary is coming back, he literally poaches Yopaj Skim right now. Like, there's no way, there's no two ways about it. You take them right now. Take them right now, both of them. Pay Shopify what they want, take them right now. Shopify's going to rebuild anyway, by the looks of it, take it. You know what I mean? If Shopify wants to rebuild, if we live in a world where RTZ finally says, I'm going to take a break, if that happens, and you're going to rebuild, then take them back. Take them right now, Gary.
Yeah, but what if they rebuild with Yopaj Skim?
Offer them more.
An arms race and money up against Shopify, I don't think is even something Gary can keep up. Let's be frank here, Mike. It's a lot.
I mean,
that's a lot you're talking about, and that goes back to the salary thing, Mikey. Huh? I mean,
you
watch what you say.
In fairness, with like salary plus, I guess, almost guaranteed slots to every tournament, maybe a bit too like. It might be a little bit too, they might be too incentivized to stay in NA in that case. Still, though, it's just, I don't know. Is it like, are you getting the competitiveness you want, though? Like, that's my question. Like, a player like Yopaj, right? Let me use Yopaj because he is a very technically high-skilled player. Yeah. Right? Is he getting the practice he requires in NA?
God, no. He queues in Europe.
Right, he queues in EU, right? Plays on ping, but you can only get so good playing on ping. Trust me, I know. I play on ping all the time, John. It's I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird question to ask yourself. Like, are you getting enough practice? Are you getting enough experience where you are right now? Nothing against the NA region, but they themselves can admit that they don't have a growing player base at the moment. And I don't know.
They all play in Europe. Yeah. Also, I want to take this moment. I just saw it now. Tita Helenita Ong, Skem's mom was watching and just wanted to shout out her. Tita was watching us. So, hello, Tita. Thank you for dropping by and thank you for watching. How sweet.
Hello.
She was there like an hour ago. It was on. I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, of course, and this will be up on Spotify and YouTube again. But she was on Facebook and she did say hi. I didn't catch it, but when she sent it out, I didn't catch it, but she did say hi. I was like, "Ah, Tita's dropped by. That's so sweet."
how thankfully I did just praise Skim and not completely trash him.
Oh no.
I can see a very interesting world right now for SCA, with the players that are going to be available next year by the looks of it, no spoiler alerts yet, but it seems like
Right.
there's a couple of organizations that can't stick around, so it seems like there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of free players. And
I'm just
I love how you're
yeah.
so quick to stop me before I say something stupid. I
No, no,
appreciate
no,
it,
no.
John.
No. I was gonna say just the players that are already free. Carl unsigned for the entire year. Raven with Raven's fan club. DJ on a team that I don't think is a long-term contract, and that Team TK thing. There's already a lot of free players there, and it's gonna be exciting just to see what happens from that point. I think it's
Where
pretty
did
exciting.
Carl go? Like Carl
Just
literally
disappeared.
went a whole.
Yeah.
He literally had a whole. I completely forgot about it.
I think I can say it now. If Lane St. Clair, Alphonse not gonna care, but they were supposedly, I think, gunning for Carl, and then just fell through. Then I don't know what happened. Just kind of disappeared. Was he? If I'm not wrong, he was on blacklist for a while, right? That was like initially Carl before they had Abed in. It's been so long. Like it's a long year. Last year was a really long year, but I think he was there. Then he disappeared after, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he makes a reappearance. But it does seem like a lot of players in the region are going to be free again next year. Or not next year, maybe just in the new season after TI. I don't know for sure. All I can say is it does appear that some orgs are not having the greatest time right now when it comes to the accounting department or the finance department. So, yeah, could be very interesting to see these players coming up. Even if we get to just 5 stacks, I don't even care anymore. Like, even if we have to cast Team Darling or whatever they call themselves, like, so be it. I don't care. I want teams that want to win. I don't want these, going back to the first point we talked about in the whole podcast, I don't want to see teams that get paid stupid salaries and then just flop top 16 every time. Like, it's so exhausting to watch. It's so, and I don't want to hear the excuse of, oh, we just need more time. Like, you've had like 14 years. You don't need more time. You need to like get a grip, right? Get an ego check going. Like, there's too much money, man. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It is. And hopefully, again, next year's going to be a bit of a reality check if this year's not already that reality check. As, like you mentioned, I think we are seeing that hunger already from players who were affected, like Cuckoo. Again, shout out to him. He has looked hungry, very introspective. His new direction in TNC/Darling, I think, has been overall, again, character growth, because they're not getting a salary. So it is about the hunger. And I think we need, I mean, I'm not saying don't pay the players, but I think you need that hunger. You need that hunger back, guys.
I'm saying good as in, like, props to the boys at TNC that have signed up to the roster that said we'll work for free. Don't worry about it. We got it. Like, you can pay us some other time. Like, that's what you want. I'm not saying the new players should do that. Like, if you're a tier 3 player and you just made it to the tier 1 scene, like, don't do that. Like, definitely try to make some salary. But if you're a player that's already got money, like, like, your life's not going to change with 10k a month. You'll be fine. Maybe stop going to the casino every week. You'll be right.
You tell him, Mikey. You tell him. But
trust me, I will. We'll have a chat with the boys when I see him in person.
For sure.
Don't you worry.
For sure.
Anyway, John, I've got no more topics unless you do.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna talk about like the Steam Summer Sale stuff, but you barely play anything else, so I don't think it's worth raising up at all.
Is there any? Games?
I got my friends got me to playing this one game, Murky Divers. So it's kind of like Lethal Company, where except you have to drive a submarine to the place, and it's really fun. So one guy's navigating, one guy's on the helm, one guy's on speed on the engines, one guy's on the sonar, telling you what's on the radar. It's pretty fun. And then when you get to the dive site, you have to be quiet. The monster will hear. It's really fun. It's like 200 pesos. I made Lane St. Clair play it. It's pretty hilarious. His microphone stopped working too, so he's just mute the entire time. It was so fun watching him though. Like I'm really enjoying that game. I think I'm gonna be, I don't know, like this is just a self-tangent. I think I'm gonna be picking up Lethal Company and Contentware. All of them are like the same concept. Co-op, environmental horror. And you're in the location, you do stuff. It's pretty cool. So I think I've been enjoying that. But beyond that, not much. I've been playing Balatro. Do you know Balatro, Mikey?
No.
Do you know this streamer called Northern Lion?
No.
He's a cool guy. So I ran into him because of Balatro. He was not really advertising. He was trying this game in early access. Balatro is this Omaha poker game, roguelike. So you play against the blinds. You have to hit certain chips. It's fun. You get some modifiers. It's a really fun game. It's super fun. Like if you're looking for something light to just kill time, Balatro has been excellent. I still have to dig into Kingdom Hearts though. Like I'm saving that for a long session. You know, I'm just like Kingdom Hearts. You know, Mikey, I'm excited. I'm excited.
I suppose before we do close off on the podcast, I think one interesting kind of point Mercy brought up in the chat, Jonathan. Act 3 for Crownfall. Theoretically, June 39th is today, is it not?
Yes, if I recall right.
I'm pretty sure June 39th is today. So I imagine sometime throughout the night for us.
It'll get updated to June 49th. And don't you dare say sometime through the night for us, because that's going to be hell on earth for what we're going to do later, okay? No spoilers, we can't say anything, but we are maybe later in the day, and that's going to be very bad news, Mikey. Never say that. Not today. Do not say that.
What are we doing later in the day?
Oh, wait. If it's today, fine. But if it's tomorrow morning, if it's any time, it would be a nightmare. I do not hope. As long as it's sometime... Okay, today can do. They have to do it today. If they do it the day after, we are dead. 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 Dead, I tell you.
You know what? You got a very good point.
I knew it. I was like, oh.
I'm going to be very mad in a couple days, aren't I, John?
You will be. Oh, hopefully it's delayed by a week. Thank you, Valve Time. You come in clutch. And that is probably what we'll get. I expect it like the week after, which gives me some time to probably get myself the side quest pat. I haven't done that yet. It would be really nice. I think I do have... Do not worry, Mike. Some people have paid me. I have some spare change.
Oh no, I mean, what John's trying to say, by the way, is in the event that Crownfall came out while we're casting, it would be absolutely hellish because things always bug out during
Oh, no, Alphon, don't say that. Alphon said, Nova said it's a patch tomorrow. Please don't say tomorrow. Oh. Oh, no.
No patch tomorrow. Just Crownfall. Just Crownfall. Well, we don't know. Maybe there is a patch tomorrow.
I mean, even if it's just Crownfall, I don't know. You know, stuff happens, Mike. Stuff happens in the game. We could have some insane stuff happening. Oh, no, please. I'm getting... Oh. No. I can't imagine it. I'm shivering.
You want to go on, John? I think you want to close out the podcast.
Right. All right. I think that's all we have for this week. I think, it's working out, Mike. You've got time every week. We can pick it up. So hopefully we'll catch you guys next time. Again, this will be live on Spotify and YouTube. If you're already listening on there, thank you very much. It's John. It's Mike. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time around. Goodbye. All right, that's the recording ended. Before I end the stream, I want to give thanks to everyone for dropping by. Again, shout out to Lane, Dougie, Nina, Aries was down here a while ago, Mercy, Mercurial L, Hostly Harmless, Jang, Jung13, Alphon, Tridharma 23, Marble Moves, TS Chan, Foji. Did I miss anyone else? Tej Hey, Optimism. I think I got everyone. And Tita Helnita Ong on Facebook. Thank you again for so much for dropping by. Did not expect that. Rebel Heart, Butchel, Andri Dora. I don't think that's scam. Tostris, Sparknot, Onigiri Takoyaki, C-Stat. Thank you again, everyone, for watching in. Is there anyone to raid before we head off here? Who is live? Sophie's live, I guess. There's literally no one else. Yeah, just Sophie. Maybe raid Sophie. Have fun. She's playing Elden Ring, which Mike also wants to play soon. No spoiler. Mike, when you do come back, Mikey, you should stream it for us, alright? Alright. Raiding out. Thanks again for tuning in. And catch you guys next time. Goodbye. Alright, raid is sent, and time to kill streams.